the Honorable Kwaku Asante Boateng, MP, the Honorable Emmanuel Kwasi Betsra, MP, the Honorable Andrew Chiwite, MP, and Mr. Anthony Ayekum, Delegation Secretary. The delegation is on a 4-day standing visit with the objective of understanding the operations of the House Business Committee, the Committee on Implementation and Commission Secretariat, the Liaison Committee, the Directorates of Departmental and Select Committees, among others, and shall hold meetings with the leadership of the House. Indeed, the committee has already had a meeting with the House Business Committee of this House this morning. On my own behalf and that of the House, I wish the delegation fruitful undertakings and welcome them to the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya this afternoon. Thank you.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Honourable members, starting order number 225, subsection 2, paragraph B requires the Speaker to report to the House any petition other than those presented by a member. Further, Article 119 of the Constitution of Kenya provides for the right of any person to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including petitioning the House to enact, amend, or repeal any legislation. In this regard, honourable members, I wish to report to the House that my office has received a petition signed by Mr. Mikeson Mugo, Ms. Faith Rotich, and Ms. Washera Maina of ID numbers 31421942, 26243210, and 21647092, respectively, on behalf of persons suffering from autoimmune diseases in Kenya. Honourable members, the petitioners state that autoimmune conditions occur when a person's immune system reacts to parts or organs of the body as though they were foreign bodies, and it releases antibodies that mistakenly attack the person's essential body cells. They have found that whereas over 80 types of autoimmune diseases have been identified, medical research is yet to unearth the causes of the abnormal behavior by which a person's immune system triggers adverse autoimmune reactions. They claim that since there is no single test that can precisely determine if a person has autoimmune condition or not, doctors rely on clinical diagnoses, which make it harder for healthcare workers to manage the condition in good time. Honourable members, the petitioners are concerned that the cost of managing autoimmune disease in Kenya is extremely exorbitant. They claim that in a month, a person suffering from autoimmune disease could have to spend approximately 100,000 shillings on medication to regulate the response of the immune system, shillings 350,000 on medication to prevent flare-ups, and another 70,000 for each therapy to manage slurring. In addition, the patient must undergo regular magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, tests at an estimated cost of 400,000 and 1 million shillings for treatment. The petitioners lament that despite the high cost of diagnosing, treating, and managing autoimmune disease in Kenya, majority of medical insurance providers, including the National Hospital Insurance Fund, in brackets NHIF, do not offer medical cover for patients who suffer from autoimmune diseases. This has made it nearly impossible for them to access medication, hence making them vulnerable to premature death. Honourable members, the petitioners are therefore praying for the intervention of the National Assembly to enhance access of persons who suffer from autoimmune disease to medical care by ensuring that the National Hospital Insurance Fund provides medical insurance cover for persons living with autoimmune diseases to cover the cost of drugs, laboratory tests, and diagnostic services, surgical, dental, or medical procedures or equipment, physiotherapy care, a doctor's fees, food, and boarding. Honourable members, having determined that the matters raised by the petitioners are well within the authority of this House, I order that pursuant to the provision standing under number 227, subsection 1, the petition be committed to the Departmental Committee on Health. The committee is required to consider the petition and report its findings to the House and to the petitioners in accordance with Standing Order 227, subsection 2. I thank you. It's a petition by the member for Muranga, who chairs the commission to which this one is referred. You have a petition?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I've received on behalf of the committee that petition. We'll look at it. Mr. Speaker, I have a petition regarding malpractices in the licensing of coffee marketers in the country. And I, the undersigned, on behalf of National Coffee Cooperative Federation of Kenya, would like to draw the attention of the House to the following: that agriculture, including coffee farming, is a major mainstay of Kenya's economy and supports the livelihood of many families in the country, and that in recognition of the contribution of coffee sector to the economy of the country through exports and job creation, the President appointed the National Task Force on Coffee Subsector Reforms by the Gazette Notice number 1332 of 4th March 2016. That the task force were primarily tasked with the responsibility to look into issues affecting coffee marketing by rigorously analyzing the value chain in the subsector with a view to recommending ways of improving the same. That the task force submitted its report to the President, who went ahead and appointed the gazetted the Coffee Subsector Implementation Committee to coordinate the implementation of recommendations of the task report. That as part of the implementation roadmap, the Coffee Subsector Implementation Committee spearheaded formulation and enactment of a new regulatory framework embedded in the Crops Coffee General Regulations 2019, hereafter referred as Coffee General Regulations, and the Capital Markets Coffee Exchange Regulations 2020, thereafter referred to as the Coffee Exchange Regulations to govern the coffee subsector. But the coming into force of the new regulatory framework abolished coffee marketing agents, licenses, and replaced them with coffee brokers to carry out the coffee marketing function. That pursuant to Regulation 11 of the Coffee Exchange Regulation, the Capital Markets Authority granted coffee broker licenses to the following brokerage firms under several coffee cooperatives union. 1, United Eastern Kenya Coffee Marketing Company. 2, Meru Coffee Marketing Agency Limited. 3, Kipkelion Brokerage Company Limited. 4, Mount Elgon Coffee Marketing Agency Limited, and Muranga County Coffee Dealers Limited. That the CMA communicated to the Nairobi Coffee Exchange and published a public notice to the effect that it had licensed the above firms to carry out the coffee marketing function. That the above firms underwent rigorous and stringent application process, including obtaining a no objection letters from NCE pursuant to Regulation 82C of Coffee Exchange Regulations. That in a surprise move, the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives disregarded the new legal and regulatory framework and unilaterally issued legal notice number 104 of 2021, purportedly amending the Coffee General Regulations to extend agent licenses from 1st July 2021 to 30th June 2022. That whereas the foregoing action by the Cabinet Secretary has the force of law, hence requiring scrutiny and approval of the National Assembly, in accordance with the Statutory Instruments Act, the CS sidestepped this House and exercised the delegated legislative authority. That in an attempt to remedy the above usurpation of the legislative authority of this House, the Cabinet Secretary, by revoked notice, legal notice number 104 of 2021, once again issued a draft legal notice on 25th August 2021, extending coffee marketing licenses on unfounded grounds that the CMA was yet to have the brokers' licenses. That when the United Eastern Kenya Coffee Market Company, a duly licensed broker, applied to be admitted at the NCE auction floor, and be allocated lots rate and brokerage code, the NC rejected the application on 9th August 2021, citing legal notice number 104 of 2021, which is not only unlawful but was also revoked by the Cabinet Secretary. That the decision by NSC amounts to selective application of the law, given that it has previously set a precedent by admitting Meru County Coffee Marketing Agency Limited to the auction floor under a broker license issued by the CMA. That the above malpractice offence section 11(3)(1) and W and 22A of the Capital Markets Authority Act and Regulations 6E and H of the Coffee Exchange Regulation that obligate the CMA to grant reasonable access to auction by all licensed entities and requires the CMA to direct NSE to facilitate their participation in the auction. And that although the Coffee General Regulations and Coffee Exchange Regulations came into force in 2019 and 2020 respectively, the CS has demonstrated rigidity in pursuing their full implementation, as evidenced in the delay to have the board to manage CME and cause CME to select a provider for the direct settlement system, that is DSS. That if the malpractice surrounding the issuance of coffee marketing licenses are not immediately forestalled, the coffee subsector is at risk of reverting to the old dispensation. And that to the best of petitioners' knowledge, the issues in the respect of which this petition is made are not pending before any court of law or constitutional or legal body. Therefore, your humble petitioners pray for intervention of this House through the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock to 1, inquire into the circumstances under which the Cabinet Secretary of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries and Cooperatives unlawfully amended the Crops Coffee General Regulation 2019 through legal notice number 104 of 2021, issued a legal notice without the following process set out in the Statutory Instruments Act, and declare the legal notice 104 of 2021 and any other legal notice issued by the Cabinet Secretary, Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives are unlawful, null and void, since they were not subjected to public participation and parliamentary scrutiny as required under the Statutory Instrument Act. And 3, recommend that all marketing licenses issued under the revoked Coffee General Rules 202 or any other legal notice extending their operations contrary to the provisions of the Crops or Coffee General Regulation 2019 be cancelled. And 4, recommend that the Nairobi Coffee Exchange urgently appoints a provider of direct settlement system pursuant to Regulation 41(1) of the Coffee Exchange Regulations so as to operationalize the system. And 5, recommend that NCE admits all licensed coffee marketing brokerage firms with immediate effect in the compliance with the provisions of Capital Markets Coffee Exchange Regulation 2020. And 6, make any other recommendation that it may deem fit in addressing the concerns of the petitioners. And your petitioner will ever pray. Presented by Honorable Sabina Wanjiru Chege, CBS, MP member from Murang'a County, on behalf of the petitioners. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, honourable members, I hope in lieu of the round consultations, when I open the space for comments, clarifications, whether all of you will be relevant to the 2 petitions. But let me see. The first one on the block is the Honorable Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and I rise to support the petition that the earlier petition that you read on behalf of the petitioners, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, people suffering from autoimmune disease are really suffering because of the high cost of treatment of the and even diagnosis of the autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto, Graves' disease, and the rest, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, but their percentage is quite low in a general population. So I think covering it with NHIF is something that will not cost us a lot of money. So I think this House, Honorable Speaker, should rise to the occasion and make sure that all these Kenyans suffering from autoimmune disease are also covered, especially in our National Hospital Insurance Fund, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. I do support the petition.
Honorable Amalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support both petitions, and particularly the first one on autoimmune diseases, Mr. Speaker. You realize that health management in this country has become very expensive, Mr. Speaker, as far as the diagnosis is concerned, consultation, and the cost of drugs. I know we've just passed the NHIF amendment bill, Mr. Speaker, and I remember very well there was a provision for payment of extra premium maybe for higher coverage. How I wish, Mr. Speaker, that the Committee on Health will look into this and be able to harmonize, maybe for future, how it can be managed. I know currently we are on the health laws, Mr. Speaker. It has a lot of issues. We've had many petitions pertaining that particular law that is on the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker. So as we move forward, mine is to call upon honorable members to look into this aspect so that in the overall, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to treatment, the diagnosis, consultation, the drugs, it can be manageable. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the last petition, the petition pertaining the issue of coffee. I know we have an AFA Act which was there, and Mr. Speaker, I think currently as we speak, under the Committee of Agriculture, there's under the committee, there is issue of the Coffee Act, which is being revived. And I have no doubt the issues that Honorable Sabina Chege has raised in terms of the management, the licensing, they'll be handled when it comes to the issues of the Coffee Act. Otherwise, I support and I thank you.
Member for North Imenti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to join the first one. Petitioners regarding the autoimmune diseases. Mr. Speaker, a lot of people have the lupus, which attacks its own tissues. The immune system attacks the own tissues, as well as MS, multiple sclerosis, where the protective cover is removed by the immune system. So, Mr. Speaker, I support that, and I wish the NHIF would be able to cater for the people who are suffering those diseases. On the second petition, Mr. Speaker, I would not say whether I will support or not, because Honorable Sabina Chege has raised a few issues, and she has even mentioned Meru County. Mr. Speaker, we are aware that there are many, many issues with the coffee sector, and especially in Meru, we have had both sides pulling to each other's wherever they prefer. The CS opening his own, the governor doing his own thing. And at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, we need to sit down as stakeholders and see the best way where our farmers are going to benefit. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish when we have a proper debate on this, when the report is brought, so that the farmers are put number one and not anybody else, not vested interests. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sassion.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. On coverage of new diseases, autoimmune diseases, Honorable Speaker, the committee should also be prudent to consult actuarial facts in terms of the cost implications on the capacity of NHIF, Mr. Speaker. And number two, Honorable Speaker, we should also balance over-reliance on NHIF to cover the population and also the cost of emergence of new diseases. Honorable Speaker, there is then need to ensure that the country has the right infrastructure in order to scale down the cost of autoimmune diseases by government shouldering the responsibility of the cost of certain diseases like autoimmune diseases, so that we don't constrain and have exaggerated expectation on a scheme that is already constrained. And on the second petition, Mr. Speaker, we should strive as a country to remove the presence of cartels in the market chain of our farm produce, particularly the foreign exchange earners, so that our farmers can access the market and access very high prices for their goods. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Dr. Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you know, on the first petition on autoimmune diseases, maybe some members might not understand what autoimmune diseases are. These are, even type 1 diabetes mellitus is an autoimmune disease. You talk of diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. We had one of our colleagues, Honorable Mukwe, who died in this parliament. He was having rheumatoid arthritis. So it's not a strange disease, Honorable Speaker. It's a common disease. So as the committee looks into it, I think it's, and you find that majority of even very poor people have diabetes type 1, mellitus, diabetes mellitus type 1. So we need to give it due consideration. Somebody should not die because of having a disease that is an inherited disease. So as the committee looks at it, please, let's give it the seriousness it deserves. On the petition by Honorable Sabina Chege, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think I would request that if the Committee on Delegated Legislation should also be involved, because we have cassettlements that have been done, and on issues of without the Committee on Delegated Legislation looking on them. So I think the Committee on Delegated Legislation should be able to be involved, because I don't think the Committee on Agriculture has the capacity to know whether this has gone through the Committee of Delegated Legislation. So I request that also because issues that have been raised are very pertinent issues, and it's important that the coffee sector is protected. And we have a bill in this House, Honorable Speaker, that is dealing with the coffee sector. I support.
Now, honourable members, if there is not going to be you're not going to lower the decibels, I think we might as well proceed with the rest of the business. Yes. So the petitions are committed to the respective committees, namely, the first one, health, and the second one, agriculture. No. The committees are staffed by staff who are knowledgeable enough, and they can always invite their colleagues from Committee on Delegated Legislation to take them through some of the issues that they may wish to be informed about. Because the Honorable Sabina Chege has chosen that the petition goes to the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, notwithstanding references to what the Committee on Delegated Legislation had already dealt with. Yeah. Well, next order.
Order number 5, papers.
The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, October 12th, 2021, this session. 2 number reports of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on its consideration of 1, the Work Bill, National Assembly Bill number 73 of 2019, and the Roman 2, the public petition by Mr. Francis Kimani Kanyola, Javan Diche, and Mr. Chemao Hirale Baraza regarding amendments to the Advocates Act to allow admission of legal practitioners from the Republics of Rwanda and the Republic of Burundi to the role of advocates in Kenya. Thank you, sir. I beg to lay.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Next. Yes, member for Garissa Township.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 33-1, I rise to seek leave for the adjournment of the House to discuss a definite matter of urgent national importance regarding the ravaging drought situation in most parts of our country. Honorable Speaker, the performance of both 2020 short rains and 2021 long rains have been poor across the country, resulting into a severe drought among the arid and semi-arid counties of Turkana, Kilifi, Mandera, Wajir, Kwale, Marsabit, Kitui, Baringo, Makwiny, Siolo, Tana River, West Pokot, Samburu, Meru, Laikipia, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Kajiado, Tharaka Nithi, Embu, Nyeri, and Narok. The drought situation, Mr. Speaker, is likely to worsen in the second half of 2021 with the negative consequences for the household food scarcity, crop and livestock production, access to water, the nutritional status of children, and local coping strategies. Honorable Speaker, cumulative impact of the 2 consecutive poor rainy seasons coupled with the COVID-19 pandemic, insecurity, pests and disease have caused rapid rise in humanitarian needs in the arid and semi-arid lands of Kenya. It is as a result of this that the President of Kenya on 8th of September 2021 declared the drought situation a national disaster, in particular in Mandera, Garissa, Wajir, Marsabit, and Isiolo as being the most affected. Honorable Speaker, it's against this background that with your indulgence, I seek leave for the adjournment of the House to discuss a matter of national concern with a view to providing mitigation measures that may be life-saving and life-sustaining assistance to the most affected by the drought through integrated humanitarian interventions and strengthening the resilience of drought-affected communities to mitigate the impacts of drought. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Where's Mameni?
Do you have the numbers?
Where?
Very well, very well, very well. You have the numbers. You may take your seats. Yeah, it's, that's for drought. For those ones who stood without knowing what this you are standing for. For those of you who stood up because it is fashionable to stand, it is about drought, the biting drought in the country. So at least, because I know many of you may have finished your business for the day. So it is about drought. And honestly, it's a serious matter. So I order that the House shall be moved to adjourn by the Honorable Duale at 5:30. 1.5 hours. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
First question by the member for Starehe. Member for Starehe. Member for Starehe, you know, or you don't know what you came to do. Okay, let's go to the other one who knows what they came to do.
No, it's all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 394 of 2021, directed to Cabinet Secretary for Education. 1. What specific measures is the ministry taking to caution students, particularly the financially challenged government-sponsored students, from the effects of the rising cost of living that have seen tuitions and accommodation fees increased in various institutions, particularly at the University of Nairobi? 2. When will the government increase the capitation and HELB funds allocation for students in public universities and other public tertiary institutions? 3. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the government has been largely focusing on funding of private universities and neglecting public universities in the last 4 years? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research. Next question by the member for Mwatate. Member for Mwatate, Honorable Mwadime.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Devolution. Subsection 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the government has not considered including Taita Taveta County, particularly Mwatate constituency, in the relief food program, considering that over 80% of the county is in arid region? Subsection 2. Could the Cabinet Secretary undertake to ensure that residents of the said county who are on the verge of starvation due to the ongoing drought are urgently supplied with relief food and water. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Committee on Administration and National Security. Next question is by the member for Githunguri, Gabriel Kago. Member for Githunguri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I arise to ask question 412 of 2021 to the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. Question 1, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of all coffee farmers across the country who have benefited from the 3 billion fund established in 2020 through the Public Finance Management Regulation 2020 since the fund was set up? That is the Coffee Cherry Advance Revolving Fund. Roman 2, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the decision to settle for the Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, KPCU, as the sole distributor of the said fund? Yet, not all farmers sell coffee through the KPCU. Roman 3, what measures have been put in place to ensure that all coffee farmers across the country benefits from this fund? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. Next question is by the member for Westlands, the Honorable Wanyonyi.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'm being obstructed. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sankok, and yes, you must not be you must not be.
Mr. Speaker.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask question number 432 of 2021, the Cabinet Secretary of Education. Question 1, what was the rationale for the issuance of an advisory by the Teacher Service Commission to all Bachelor of Education students in universities to study all subjects as opposed to specialization as has been the case in the past? Question 2, could the Cabinet Secretary provide statistical data of all the special education teacher requirements per county, the number of all qualified special education teachers, and the number of special education teachers employed by TSC from the year 2017 to 2018 financial year to present day? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question will be replied to before the, written response will be given by the Teacher Service Commission. Next question is by the member for Garsen. Member for Garsen, the Honorable Ali Wario. Member for Garsen. Member for Garsen.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I didn't receive communication, but I'll find out.
What? It's your question.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide specific details of parcel of land registered and the Nairobi Ranching Company in Chara, Kipini, and Witu areas of Tana River County, includes the land, reference number, size, and date? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. Next segment is a segment for request for statements. The Honorable Shabil Shakil, member for Kisumu East.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I have a request for a statement regarding the entry of a large number of foreign nationals into this country. Honorable Speaker, sir, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security regarding the entry of a large number of foreign nationals into this country, allegedly being Pakistani nationals. Honorable Speaker, over the past 4 months, Kenya has witnessed a surge of number of foreign travelers transiting through our airports. The Pakistani nationals arrived in batches of between 200 to 500 every day aboard chartered planes, among them Emirates, Qatar Airways, Pakistan International Airways, to name a few. Out of 20,000 transitees, only 8,000 have been transited to Saudi Arabia. The remaining 14,000 are accommodated in various alleged isolation centers, but they have been moving freely in Nairobi city and the environs. The government made a statement that the Pakistani nationals are genuine tourists with the valid and legal visas. The government is, however, alarmed by the threat of the spread of COVID-19 pandemic posed by the influx of foreign travelers transiting through this country. Honorable Speaker, sir, Kenya was removed from the red list recently, but this incident of uncontrolled isolation centers and the absence of COVID-19 protocols has put Kenya's status at great risk. Honorable Speaker, sir, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the following. Could the chairman explain why the Immigration Department had not consulted the Pakistani counterparts in respect of Pakistani national transiting through this country? Could the chairman explain whether the ministry was aware of the intent of this exodus in great number? Could the chairman explain why the ministry has not yet traced or identified the Kenyan organizers and the Pakistani organizers, both in Kenya and Pakistan, who each have been paid $4,500 each for each case? Could the chairman explain why the COVID-19 protocols in respect of the isolation were not strictly observed and the resultant risk exposed to the Kenyans as a result of the large number of Pakistani nationals in this country? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Is the chairman of the committee in the House? The Honorable Mwadi is, I think he is busy. He is not in the House. The request is channeled to you, Honorable Mwadi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We should be able to address that within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks, Honorable Shakir.
A matter of national interest and emergency. 2 weeks is good, but I think the sooner we deal with this, the better. I think 2 weeks is a long time, Mr. Speaker, sir, because of the emergency of this issue. COVID can attack us at any time.
Honorable Mwadi, you've heard.
I hear, Honorable Speaker, and I have heard it is emergency, but I said within 2 weeks. If I am able to do before 2 weeks are over, I'll do that. But the greatest extent that we can stay is 2 weeks. But I'll endeavor to see whether I can do that before 2 weeks are over.
Very well. Next request is by the member for Gatundu South. His request is to be channeled through the member for Mugirango South, Honorable Silvanus Osoro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 42-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Health regarding medical products and devices being promoted and sold in the country by Seragem Kenya Limited. Honorable Speaker, Seragem Company Limited started in 1998 in South Korea as an alternative treatment method, and over time it has spread to 75 countries worldwide. According information made available by the company, Seragem states that it discovered that most health issues have their origin in the spine, that is central nervous system, while the remaining few are lifestyle. For this reason, the company has therefore come up with a solution to this through research and development of thermal acupressure devices. Honorable Speaker, Seragem Kenya Limited promotes and sells its medical products and devices through a number of its branches located in various towns in the country. And however, over the recent past, there have been claims leveled against the efficacy of some of its products and devices. Questions have also been raised regarding the lack of approval of some of its products and devices by both the Pharmacy and Poisons Board and the Kenya Bureau of Standards. It is against this background that I seek for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Health. And in the statement, the chairperson should address the following. Could the chairperson list all the medical products and devices being sold or promoted in the country by Seragem Kenya Limited? 2, have all the said products and devices been approved by both the Pharmacy and Poisons Board and the Kenya Bureau of Standards? 3, how many outlets does the company have in Kenya? 4, is the ministry aware that some of the products by Seragem Limited, mother company, have been banned in the state of Texas in the United States of America for making false claims about their efficacy against cancer? And 5, what action will be taken against Seragem Kenya Limited in case it emerges that its medical products and devices do not have approval from the Pharmacy and Poisons Board and the Kenya Bureau of Standards? Honorable Speaker, it is for this reason Honorable Moses Kuria is in hospital. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chair, the Chair Health. Chair Health.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I've had my committee will take seriously that statement and will respond. I personally visited Honorable Moses Kuria and he gave me the story on what happened. And so, Mr. Speaker, it's not just for the purpose of Moses Kuria, but many Kenyans will be exposed to such devices, not only the company that has been mentioned, and the control that the country is giving to protect citizens. Actually, Mr. Speaker, I would urge members, because I've seen in various shopping centers, there are several places that those things have been opened. Let them also go, see, then they come and tell us, even with the committee, what's happening, so that we can be able, Mr. Speaker, to give a very conclusive and a good answer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
How long?
3 weeks, Mr. Speaker.
3?
Yes. Now, you know, you cannot purport I already have an answer, because, Mr. Speaker, you might need to go visit, see the places, and actually even get more people. Maybe even open it to the public so that if anybody else has concerns, they can come and see the committee. So 3 weeks, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the answer will be ready.
Honorable Soro.
Honorable Speaker, 3 weeks is a bit too long, considering that the products are also in circulation and Kenyans are also buying and using them. And you can imagine if the unfortunate situation befell the Honorable Member of Parliament, Honorable Moses Kuria, it can actually befall to any person. And there are so many other unreported cases. So my proposal is perhaps 2 weeks, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Sabina Chege, can you do it in 2 weeks?
That's okay, Mr. Speaker.
Because
we'll
you may not be required to go to the villages to see who is doing what. The question is specific about the veracity of some of the products being marketed.
It's all right, Mr. Speaker. We'll try 2 weeks.
Yes.
Thank you.
2 weeks.
Yes.
Honorable Sabina Chege, you also have a state request.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44, 2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs regarding the voter registration exercise in Kiambaa constituency. Honorable Speaker, Article 88.4 of the Constitution provides for the mandate and functions of the IEBC, which amongst other functions is to conduct continuous registration of citizens and regular revision of voters' roll, while Article 38.3 of the Constitution stipulates that every adult citizen has the right to be registered as a voter. Honorable Speaker, on 4th October 2021, the IEBC launched a mass voter registration exercise in the country, and the objective of the exercise was to ensure that the citizens of Kenya exercise their democratic right of voting in the forthcoming 2022 general election. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has failed to commence registration of eligible voters in Kiambaa constituency. The failure to conduct registration of voters in Kiambaa constituency will deny the residents their voting right. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on the following. One, could the Chairperson explain why voter registration exercise has not been conducted in Kiambaa constituency? What measures has IEBC taken to ensure that all eligible citizens are registered in the country? And three, when is the exercise expected to commence in Kiambaa constituency? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Jailak. The statement was not requested from the member for Kiambaa. No, don't teach the new member bad manners. You see now he is rising. He thinks that that's the way business is transacted here. He has let him first of all read the standing orders and. No, it is never done that way. No, don't raise hands here. Honorable Kigano.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Generally, the matter of voter registration was before my committee this morning. We deliberated on it. The matter subject of the statement was not placed before us by that time. But because we adjourned the meeting to Tuesday, 2 weeks is adequate for us to discuss Kiambaa and other areas generally and then issue a statement. We are going to issue a comprehensive which there will be more registration. That is not the final registration. There will be more registration. We have to issue a comprehensive statement surrounding the whole exercise of voter registration. So Kiambaa, among others, and Kenya generally, will be subject of that statement. Thank you. 2 weeks is enough.
The Honorable Sabina Chege, you are not satisfied with 2 weeks?
Mr. Speaker, if the committee already had started the process and this is just an additional request, I'll request the senior here to just give us 1 week so that the exercise will not have ended. So I totally feel that 1 week, because the committee has already commenced on the matters of registration, would be good for me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kigano, perhaps you could expedite. Within a week's time, you can get the necessary statement. Are you able to?
I am not comfortable because this is not the end of voter registration. This is not the end. There are a lot of anomalies in the exercise to date. So we shall be asking the IBC to extend the period or gazette another extension. So 2 weeks, we will be able to issue a statement.
Very well. Very well. Next order. What is out of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise on standing order number 91 on the responsibility for statement of fact for a member. Honorable Speaker, having listened to what the Honorable Sabina has raised and the response by the able chair of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, Chair, Honorable Speaker, I was wondering whether, Speaker, it is in order for Honorable Sabina Chege, the member for Murang'a County, to purport to be asking a question that is a matter that is already within her knowledge. One, that the reason and the only reason why there is no voter registration ongoing in Kiambaa today is because her party, Jubilee, and the candidate that Sabina Chege supported in the last by-election in Kiambaa constituency has lodged an appeal. It is also a statement of facts, Honorable Speaker, that it is in law, Honorable Speaker. It is in our statutes. And Honorable Sabina Chege, being a member of parliament who is a legislator, making laws in this house, knows that we have passed regulations in this house for IEBC, that if there is a petition filed in a court of law, there is no voter registration that can go on in that particular constituency, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I'm wondering whether Sabina Chege is not out of order to be misusing her privilege as a member of this House to come and drive partisan agendas in Kiambaa constituency on behalf of the candidate that she was supporting in the last by-election, who is the one whose proxies and supporters within Jubilee are stopping the people of Kiambaa from registering as voters, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is a statement of fact, Honorable Speaker, that the people of Kiambaa, the children of Kiambaa today, Honorable Speaker, young adults who have graduated at the age of 18, cannot even access bursaries, Honorable Speaker, because they are being denied an opportunity by Jubilee, Sabina Chege, and the person who has sent them to come and raise these issues. Honorable Speaker, it is only fair that we do not abuse our privileges as members of parliament, whereas we are the same people, Honorable Speaker, whereas we are the same people who have passed these regulations in this house. Why would we pass regulations stopping IEBC? Maybe Honorable Sabina Chege should have brought a law that enables the children of Kiambaa who cannot even access bursaries today because you cannot prove that they are voters in Kiambaa to be able to get an opportunity to do so. Honorable Speaker, I therefore beg that, Honorable Speaker, with your great wisdom, Honorable Speaker, you do find that Honorable Sabina Chege is completely out of order and abusing processes and her privileges as a member of parliament.
Now, honourable members, I am aware that as the date of 9th of August 2022 approaches, sanity is likely to begin to become a rare commodity among many people who aspire to some positions. But please, remember you are required still, notwithstanding the proximity of the 9th of August, to still remain decorous. So it is within the rights of the member for Murang'a to ask the question about voter registration, and it is also within the right of the chairman of the committee to come and give that explanation, so that the House will be that richer with the information that will be given. You see, the alleged existence of a petition, is not a matter that is to exclusive knowledge of only one person. And if it can be given as a reason why voter registration is not happening in that constituency, so be it. Let it be given as a reason. Yeah. So please, let's not get things which are out of this place influencing how we transact business here. Now, let's not go there. The Honorable John Bandi says there's a lot of heat in the mountain. No, you know, can you tell the new you are the member of Kiamba? No, just take your seat. Take your seat. Don't raise up your hand. All you need to do is just do.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's a very weighty matter in regards to the voter registration that is going on in other countries and other constituencies, but not in Kiamba. But I don't think the member for Murang'a is in order, and she's at the center of this issue. That the candidate and the person that she purports to support, he's the one that with the Jubilee and ODM party, they're the one who took me to court on the issue of the by-election that happened the other day, Mr. Speaker, on July 15th, Mr. Speaker. It is not in order to purport that she does not know the law that she's supposed to support, how much the law she's supposed to make, Mr. Speaker, that the member or the candidate she was supporting has taken me to court, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of that direction. And therefore, by that, the IBC cannot be able to conduct voter registration within Kiamba constituency, Mr. Speaker. The issue of young people, age of 18 and 24 within Kiamba, Mr. Speaker, they are not registered as a voter. And you know very well, when it was your first time to vote, and this one, Mr. Speaker, there will be the same people that you'll be coming to ask them for your vote as the President, Mr. Speaker, of this Republic, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, the issue of voter registration within Kiamba constituency, it's a weighty matter. And I will ask the member for Murang'a not to play politics with the issue of voter registration. Okay, if she really wants to ensure, and the person that she purports to support, if she really wants this to go on, she just asks the special person she supports to withdraw the petition, and the voter registration will start tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. The issue of election and voter registration, it's a weighty matter that cannot be discussed under the bracket, Mr. Speaker. It is not in order, Mr. Speaker.
Now, of course, honour members, I don't intend that to be the business to be transacted this afternoon. No, there's nothing to respond to. Many of you appear to have forgotten. Many of you appear to have forgotten the standing orders. That is not business. The only reason that I allowed the member for Kiamba to say something is because the request for statement touches on his constituency. That is the only reason. Otherwise, ordinary, and that is just by sympathy. That's just by sympathy of the speaker. So let it not be. We will not deal with that now. Let's not deal with that. No more of that. We move to the next order.
Order number 8, report on a public petition regarding insecurity in Saku constituents and the larger Marsabit County. Question to be put.
What's your point of order, Honorable Bandi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to pursuant to Standing Order number 53, request that the question on this motion regarding the report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security that was presented to the House by Honorable Saku, the MP for Saku, Honorable Alice Russell, on matters of security in Marsabit, be deferred, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, while I have absolutely no intention of questioning decisions made by this House, Mr. Speaker, it is my view that the report under question is an important report, touching on matters of security, and has the potential of even escalating the matters of security in that region. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for exempting this matter even from Standing Order number 2272 to allow debate on it. But Mr. Speaker, in my view, that given the issues that are raised in the report and the emotive nature, as I've mentioned, of matters related to security, I wish to request for more time for further consultation on the matter. And in particular, Mr. Speaker, there are a number of issues that were raised during debates, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you could ask Jaldesa to keep quiet so that I prosecute my matter, she had her day. Mr. Speaker, one of the most fundamental issues that arose during the debate is whether a member who has presented a petition to the House pursuant to Standing Order 225 can proceed to make amendments to the report on the same petition made by the committee to which the petition is committed. Mr. Speaker, if a member has an issue and has brought a petition to the House, Mr. Speaker, it is considered that the House would objectively, through a committee, go out there, investigate the matter, and present a report to the House. Mr. Speaker, if the same member who has petitioned brings again amendments, it amounts to writing the report by the same member who has petitioned the report, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, these are matters that are supposed to be canvassed for posterity. It's not a question of today. Today it is Honorable Russell, tomorrow it will be Honorable Mbadi. I think we need to treat this House, Mr. Speaker, with dignity and do things that would, Mr. Speaker, leave the times, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that, Mr. Speaker, would request your indulgence. Honorable Russell has a right to canvass issues and can bring matters here, but where you have a direct interest, Mr. Speaker, and if you look at that report, Mr. Speaker, I've read the report. Honorable Russell, with all due respect, is mentioned in the report a number of times, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we would be irresponsible as a House to allow the same member to bring amendments to a report. I know the amendments were carried, Mr. Speaker, but even though they were carried, the motion has not been voted on, Mr. Speaker. It's still the property of the House. I would want to seek, I'm not saying that we kill the report at this stage, Mr. Speaker, because killing a report of a committee is not very good for this House. I am trying to restrain this House from killing this report, because that would be the only other route left for those of us who are unhappy with what has transpired. But before we go that direction, Mr. Speaker, I would request that we defer putting a motion on this report, question on this motion, so that we can consult. But in the event, Mr. Speaker, that I can see some agitation, excitement from the women rep for Isiolo, for Marsabit. She can be excited. Is she the women rep for Isiolo?
Honorable Jaldesa.
You know, she's behaving like she's coming from Marsabit, so I'm getting a bit confused. But the bottom line is, Mr. Speaker, this is my request to you, that you defer putting question to this motion so that we can consult further. And I'm raising this in my capacity as a leader of minority, requesting that we don't make a decision at the moment. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Honorable Duale. I think let's do this, Honorable Members. Before Honorable Duale speaks, let's allow people to just canvass the point raised by the Honorable John Bandi. Let's not go to other matters that, because I can see there will be some excitement. so that we just deal with the technical issue that the Honorable John Bandi has raised. Honorable Duale.
Mr. Speaker, it is such a moment that the input of a ranking member will be required. Mr. Speaker, the matter before us on the onset is not a government bill, it's not a government matter, it's a report emanating from a petition brought by a member of this House. So, Mr. Speaker, based on the practice and the standing orders, it is the leader of majority, and I have done it several times, that can withdraw a government agenda at any stage in consultation with you, the Speaker. So this matter, it's not a government agenda. It is not a minority-sponsored bill or motion. So, Mr. Speaker, in the first place, the leader of minority must come out clearly and make full disclosure the intent and purpose of his point of order. Mr. Speaker, let me come back to procedure, Mr. Speaker. Let me come back to procedure. Mr. Speaker, last week, on Thursday, you ruled that the leader of majority of this House can file a question to a committee on behalf of the people of Kipipiri. You gave this, forget about a chair. When we have seen members filing questions to their own committee, Mr. Speaker. Not once, not twice, not thrice. And last week, somebody raised and said the leader of majority cannot. And you ruled that the leader of majority, Mr. Amos, Honorable Amos Kimunya, in the interest of the people he represents in this House, can file a petition, can file a statement, can file a question. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Bandi is right within what he said. I totally agree with him. He is a man who understands the procedure. But he should have raised this matter before, and he should have been in the House on Thursday before the debate was completed. What is before this House right now is the question to be put. And Mr. Speaker, we need a very valid reason. Very valid reason. It's not the chairman of the Committee of National Security asking for a deferment, neither the vice chair, neither a member of that committee. Honorable Raso, Mr. Speaker, and the amendments that he brought to this report, Mr. Speaker, you, our substantive Speaker, have signed it. You signed the amendments. The amendments were procedurally brought before the House. And I remember, Mr. Speaker, one of the amendments which you felt was contradictory, was not in line with the report. Honorable Raso dropped that amendment. So, Mr. Speaker, we were here last Thursday. There was a very hot debate here. The amendments were carried. We were told to debate the report as amended. And I remember I took the position to amend it. Mr. Speaker, and I look at those amendments. I look at those amendments. I look at the reports. And let me tell this House, either way, and I have discussed with Honorable Junet off the line, either way, if you kill this report, Honorable Raso is a winner. If you approve it, he is a winner. Let me put it very clearly. Honorable Raso was not very happy with the report, so he brought amendments. So if you approve the amendments, he is a winner. If you kill the report and you say the nays are more, he is a winner. So what are we postponing, Mr. Speaker? What are we postponing? I mean, this house, people must read the report. And majority of the members here, Mr. Speaker, I am sure were not here on Thursday. They never read the report. And I want to repeat, Mr. Speaker, and ask Honorable Bandi, the more we postponed, in fact, the more we postponed, the more we cause more tension in Marsabit. And Mr. Speaker, and I said it last week, Mr. Speaker, I said it, if you don't come from that region, you would understand. This is a county where great leaders from this house lost their lives. Dr. Bonaya Godana, Abdi Sasura, Dr. Guracha Galgalo, the member for Murigi Kariuki, General Aden, you know, Chelanga, Bishop, many people died. Let us not play around with it. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to know, it is the first time in this house that I am seeing a motion, a report of a committee being postponed. Somebody is asking to be postponed. It is not the chair, it's not the vice chair, it is the leader of the minority. Where the interest is coming from, I don't know. I think, Mr. Speaker, this House needs to discuss more fundamental issues. I have a motion at 5:30, and thank you very much for approving it. The people of northern Kenya are dying. Our livestock is dead. A government is saying they have given 2 billion. We can see it. Mr. Speaker, and I really want to ask on the floor, the CS for National Treasury should not play politics in this House. He should not. He is my best friend. I know Uhuru, but Uhuru cannot play politics. If he wants to play politics, let him become a member of parliament. Let him vie as a member of parliament. Mr. Speaker, he can't have his cake in the executive and his cake in the legislature. Mr. Speaker, I really want to ask you, Mr. Speaker, your wisdom, we save time, we put the question, if there is a division, people vote. Mr. Speaker, people vote, then we go ahead, we continue. Thank you.
Now, honourable members. No, I want to give a member of the committee a chance to say something, and that is the Honourable Kaluma. But be brief. Let's go to the issues raised by the Honourable Mbandi.
Yes, I thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I did not have opportunity to speak to the report because I was away on Thursday on other business of Parliament. But Honourable Speaker, I request we target the constitutional issue raised. Honourable Speaker, not the merits of the report. I think the issue being raised by Honourable Mbadi is can a petitioner before Parliament sit when Parliament makes a report making recommendations and proceed only not to move to amend the report, but the recommendations. And Mr. Speaker, this is important because it is not a matter that will just affect this matter. But this is a House of President. What we do today will affect other matters. Mr. Speaker, relevant to this matter, when this particular petition was remitted to the committee visited Marsabit. And Mr. Speaker, among the people the committee met was the petitioner, Honorable Dido Raso, Honorable Chachuganya. There was Honorable Arbele, who was a member of the committee. And we told them, we will meet you. After we meet you, leave us to meet the people. So that, number one, Mr. Speaker, I'm confirming the petitioner, having been a petitioner, was also heard by the committee with the facilitation of this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, to allow that petitioner to be seen in public suggesting amendments to the report, to me will make the other people we listen to question whether he had a privileged position above them. And to me, it bothers me. But number two, Honorable Speaker, in law we have two principles which undergird the idea of natural justice. One is that you shall not be condemned unheard. But the other is what is captured in the Latin phrase called nemo judae, in recausa sua. No man shall be a judge in his own cause. Mr. Speaker, if we allow a petitioner to propose amendments to a report, which is like a judgment by a committee of the House brought to the House for ratification. It is the perfect case, Honorable Speaker, of allowing a person to write his own judgment. And I would be worried we would not be just afoul the law on natural justice, but we would have set a very dangerous precedent for Parliament. And so, without going to the report, I would have been very happy if the recommendations and amendments that were moved by Honorable Dito Raso were moved by even any other party, not a party to the report. In the manner it is, Honorable Speaker, my view is not just that we differ, but my view is that those matters having been moved by the petitioner, and because the appearance that is writing his own judgment cannot be avoided to any reasonable person, number one, they be nullified and annulled out of that report. They be annulled by the Speaker, because the Speaker allowed this. The Speaker, they are null and void and law for breach of the Nemo Jude rule. So my request is that you direct that those amendments, to the extent that they were brought by the petitioner, whether or not the House ratified them, they are null and void, and you pronounce them nullified. That can give the opportunity, Honorable Speaker, if you can exercise your discretion in fairness to Honorable Raso and the members who sat. It can then be deferred. So if they still want to pursue them through another member, let the member bring them, but not him. And I'm saying this just for constitutionality and precedence. Honorable Speaker, I urge that we approach it that way. It would be a dangerous precedent.
No, honourable members, the issue here is not, you know, honourable members, I appreciate one thing, that decisions in a House of Parliament are made by way of a vote. So I can see that excites many of us. You've heard me in the past express my views about the provisions in the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, where I have suggested and proposed that indeed the Speaker be removed from being the chair of that committee of powers and privileges. So, now what is this one doing? Now, some members have become hawkers on the floor. How did he know that everybody is thirsty? So honour members, it's for that reason that I'm saying that this matter is not light. The issues that particularly have been articulated by Honourable Kaluma are not light issues. So even as much as you know, it's a question of a vote. And like I said last week, I know usually there are very few people, very few members on Thursday afternoons, but on Tuesdays there are very many, and they are always ready to vote. What they vote for is completely. So I'm assuming the Honorable Pukosa says that they have been briefed. What? Let me hear the chairman of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg your indulgence. I would like to buttress on what Honorable Kaluma submitted. Mr. Speaker, once, my understanding of the position is, once the recommendation is brought to this House by a committee, and the House does not adopt that recommendation, the recommendation then becomes amended through the House, and the amendments are carried. It becomes a new petition That's my submission. It loses the original format. When it loses the original format, it becomes something new. It becomes a new petition. So in my view, the petition should be taken back for reconsideration by the committee that recommended the original report, to consider the whole petition inclusive of the amendments, because the format of the original petition is changed. What you have now, it is a house trying to build a new petition. Thank you.
Let me hear Honorable Tiende Amolo.
Mr. Speaker, I want to lend my voice to the issue that is raised by Honorable John Mbadi, as amplified by Honorable Peter Kaluma. Mr. Speaker, I think it is an acute issue of conflict of interest. And I would agree that if that is the issue, then it should not even be postponement, as Honorable Mbadi was suggesting. It should be an issue, Mr. Speaker, in which you rule that a member who presents a petition by way of a public petition can then not come and amend that public petition. By definition, that becomes conflict of interest. But, Mr. Speaker, I have seen that there's more. If you look at the petition as it is, as amended, the report, Mr. Speaker, number 17 has a problem. In number 17, it is purporting to direct a constitutional commission how to do its work. That is expressly contrary to Article 249 of the Constitution. Number 19, Mr. Speaker, has yet another problem. It purports to give direction to a cabinet secretary on how to deal with refugees, contrary to the Refugees Act. The Refugees Act is very clear in terms of how to deal with refugees, who is a refugee, the refugee commissioner, but now this one is bringing in the cabinet secretary. Number 20 is again another illegality. A commission of inquiry, there's an express way in Section 3 of the Commission of Inquiries Act, how a commission of inquiry is to be established. Now, this report purports to go contrary to the express provisions of Section 3 of that Act. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the problem here is that we would be committing an unconstitutionality and an illegality. And it's not just a matter of voting. We cannot vote on what is illegal. So, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that you give an express ruling on this and defy, and so that we cannot even defy it. It is illegal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, now I'll hear, honorable members, I want that kind of sobriety. Honorable Murugara. Now let me just hear.
Thank you.
You see, honorable members, to the extent that the Constitution has been brought, yes. Remember it's in our own rules. A constitutional matter can be raised at whatever stage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, I think we need to make it very clear. Honorable Raso was not per se the petitioner. He was doing it on behalf of the people of SACU. And therefore, that element of conflict of interest cannot be as apparent as we are trying to be told. Number two, we actually read the report, and the Honorable Raso read the report and the findings. The proposed recommendations that were proposed and made were pursuant to the report and the recommendation and the findings. That is why they appear on the recommendations. There is nothing inconsistent with the report and the findings. One element was inconsistent, and he dropped it, which now makes everything else he has done intravires that report. Number three, Mr. Speaker, this matter is actually res judicata. The issues being raised here are matters which this House has considered and made a decision on them. Whether that decision is right or wrong, it is the decision of the House and it carries the day. These matters were raised before the amendments were introduced. You actually allowed the House to consider, which I think is the best thing to do, so that the Speaker is not seen to make decisions on behalf of the members. The members made the decision after lengthy debate, acrimonious, heated debate. We agreed on those amendments being part of the report. That is res judicata. We cannot reopen it at this present moment in time. I'm sorry, if you were not there to raise your concerns that time, you cannot raise those concerns now. And finally, I don't agree, even if Russell was actually a petitioner, that he cannot make recommendations. He can. Even in a judgment of the court, you know very well, as a plaintiff or defendant, judgment comes out, you find that it has an error apparent. You actually seek a review. So surely that review is taken to a judge, the way those recommendations were brought before the House. If the judge agrees, he goes by the proposals you have made. If he does not agree, you are thrown out and your application is lost. In this instance, it was brought before us, we debated, we agreed that those recommendations were merited. Therefore, that makes us functus. Today, the only postponement and the only negotiation that can be done is how the question is going to be put. What sort of a negotiation is that? What are we going to be discussing? It's functus. It's res judicata. We are done. On the question for this House to approve or reject. Nothing else.
Honorable TJ Kajwang.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. The member of Tharaka has spoken very well, as a good lawyer should. Unfortunately, let me just tell him with a lot of respect that this happens not to be a court of law. This is National Assembly, and those rules that we are all used to when we are arguing for our clans and so on are not, they are useful, but they are not really applicable here. And so he has spoken about all those big things that I'm not so sure whether members have followed res judicata. He has spoken about things to do with the functus officio. I'm sure members are wondering which are these officials which are being rendered functus. Mr. Speaker, I hold nobody's brief. I don't hold brief for my leader, minority leader. Neither do I hold brief for all these people, members, honorable members of this House. But I hold brief for the House Rules and Procedure Committee. This has been a trying moment in this parliament to try to find out the correct constitutional position of petitions. Petitions is a big step, is a big value that has been brought to us in the Constitution by dint of Article 119 of the Constitution of Kenya, and which has been domesticated under the standing orders in almost the same language as the Constitution. And so we have been agonizing how to increase the space for ordinary Kenyans to be able to reach this House and voice what they think is happening, other than the legislative mandate of the members here, representative mandate of the members here. And it is true that a member may petition on behalf of his residents or on behalf of his constituents. In fact, a member could also petition on his behalf and sign off the petition. So that the question that the House is dealing with this afternoon is an important one. If it is not for all these issues, and I must confess I cannot speak for the people of Marsabit because I don't come from there. I cannot talk about these facts. But I can talk on behalf of the House in the sense that we want to have an orderly procedural way by which members, if today is the members for Marsabit, tomorrow will be members of Ruaraka or anybody else, can approach this house and be heard. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, questions of constitutionality can be raised at any time. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, you have a lot of latitude, including Order 1 of our rules. And this, the member of Garissa town knows very well, because that is why he invited to speak to you as a ranking member of this house. Except he should have requested, Mr. Speaker, that when an issue of constitutionality is brought, whether it is just at the verge of a decision to be taken by the House, we can arrest it and look at this decision and decide whether it is constitutional or not constitutional. Now, I am quite worried, because this is the first time it has ever come, that a petitioner petitions and attends the hearing of his petition as a witness, and thereafter comes to the House and assumes his role, his representative role, and decide that this is not in keeping with what his residents are saying, and so he chooses to amend it. You know, when he is amending it, he may not have the same brief that he had when he was filing the petition. Because when he was filing the petition, he was doing it on behalf of the people. When he's amending it, one does not know whether he is amending it on behalf of the people or it is his decision as in his representative capacity to make those amendments. Then when he makes those amendments, a report is discussed as amended and a vote is taken on it. Mr. Speaker, sir, these are issues which need to be clarified so that the question of petition is clear to the House, whether you are for the people of one way on the Marsabit or not, for the dignity of this House, for the procedure of this House, for the future people who will come to use the procedure of this House. The question of petition is still a nascent thing which needs careful careful nurturing, and I think the best way would be to retire and look at this thing very objectively and then bring to us what then becomes the norm or the tradition of this House which can be used in the future. So, irrespective of the facts of this case, I would think that Honorable Mbadi was right in one aspect. Not to defy it, well, it means the same thing really, but to retire and relook at this issue, whether there is a constitutional issue that has been properly brought, and whether that issue can determine the fate of this petition. And of course, if you come to the view that there is no constitutional issue, the matter can still be brought on the order paper, and then we vote for it. Mr. Speaker, sir, I humbly beg. Thank you very much.
Can I be addressed on some interesting points that has developed in the course of these representations? Whether it is within the Speaker's powers and authority to overturn a decision of the House. No, I want. Can you? I hope you've had, because the House has made a particular decision. And remember, in our rules, once the House makes a decision on a matter, you can only now, if you want to revisit, it should be after 6 months. So the House has made some certain decisions. Yeah? One of which was to carry the amendments as proposed. Is it open within the Constitution and our rules for the Speaker to come and overturn that decision of the House? And where is that authority reposed, if at all? Remember, as you address me on that, please bear in mind also the provisions of Article 121, voting in the House. Yeah? In fact, 122. voting in the House. The Speaker has no votes. Yeah? Honorable Sankok, this is an area you are an expert in, is it?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, I come before you and I leave after you, so I've learned a lot during these 4 years that I've been here. Honorable Speaker, first of all, as per whether you have the powers to overrule a decision that have been made by this House, Honorable Speaker, I've read through the standing orders and I have not seen anywhere where it is expressed. Honorable Speaker, the petition was amended by the House, not by Honorable Ruto. Honorable Ruto only proposed amendment in this House, and through questions that have been put, the House itself amended this particular petition. Honorable Speaker, the petition have been in this House for more than 1.5 years, and it has been postponed every now and then, Honorable Speaker. I beg you, Honorable Speaker, not to allow any more postponement of this petition because people are dying and we don't know if there is a hidden hand of bloodthirsty vampires behind this postponement so that people of Marsabit can continue dying, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, justice delayed is justice denied. Let us today put a question so that those who want to kill this petition, they can do so in the floor of the House. Those who want to support the people of Marsabit, they can do so in the floor of this House, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, put the question so that we can make a decision in this House. And any decision that may not be constitutional can only be done and interpreted by the judiciary, because judiciary is the one that is given the mandate of interpreting the law. Honorable Speaker, you cannot be in legislative arm of government at the same time as a judiciary arm of government that you can interpret whether it is constitutional or not constitutional. Put the question, anybody aggrieved can go to court. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
No, let's hear some of the members who want to. Member for Nyakach is also another expert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would start by saying that this is an interesting debate, and I want to support the sentiments by the leader of minority. Mr. Speaker, Article 119 of the Constitution gives the petitioner the right to raise the issues which he raised before this House. Your Honor, the issues before you are constitutional matters. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this is a house of rules and order, but this is also a house of equity, fairness, honor, and justice. Mr. Speaker, the petitioner cannot suggest that we delete what the House had indeed passed. Your Honor, I'm speaking as a member of the committee. Your Honor, the issues which were brought before this House and which you entrusted with the committees are very emotive issues. Your Honor, as I speak here, I also speak as somebody who was also a member of the committee and a member of this House who has also been a great consumer of insecurity while serving in this House, as the record would reveal. Your Honor, this House and you as the leader of this Parliament, you have got some inherent authority to ensure that we do not breach the Constitution. Your Honor, some of the sentiments which are being raised, at the end of the day, this is a house of record, and whatever we decide on will go on record. If it goes on record, and that will be for posterity, some of the members who are now advocating a different view will one day come and say that, Your Honor, us, we were just statsmen, we were not experts in law, like Your Honor. As an expert in legal matters and a senior counsel long before we actually joined the profession, I want to say that you have authority under Standing Order 53.3 on which the minority leader raised this issue to defer it, and also understanding order number 1 to defer the issue so that you could reflect on it soberly, because it will go on record and should not touch on your integrity in future. So with that, Your Honor, I would suggest, Your Honor, as a member of the committee, I would recall that when we were arbitrating on these issues, even Mr. Honorable Arbele, who is a member of the committee, was not allowed to be part of the report writing when we were doing this, to avoid conflict of interest. So, Your Honor, it is now within your inherent powers to look at Standing Order number 225 and on whether the petitioner can still proceed to make amendments on the petition which he presented on this House, so on the report. So I want to support the views of the majority leader, who is also a senior counsel, and also the minority leader, that we should not go on record for wrong purposes. Your Honor, also of interest, when this matter came for debate, it was also imputed that the committee, there was some imputation that members of the committee could have been compromised. I've looked at a copy of the answer and it is not yet out, and I think these are weighty issues which ought to be considered so that we can also get to the answer, so that we could use the relevant provisions to make the members who imputed that bad motive on the members of the committee, and more so the late chairman, Honorable Paul Koinange, whose reputation was known by all members of this House to substantiate those claims. So I would urge you, Mr. Speaker, to defer, invoke those inherent authorities and defer this matter under Standing Order 53 so that it can be reflected well. That would also accord this House time to consider the issues which were addressed on the drought.
But even if you were to defer, it can only be for 1 day. Honorable Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, we have been listening to the legal minds, giving us some technical words here, Honorable Speaker. I think it's important to listen to logic now. Honorable Speaker, you know, and it's on record, that this matter has been a very emotive matter in this House. As a committee, because I belong to that committee, Honorable Speaker, at one point, we had to plead with you to add us an additional 1 month so that we get to the root cause of this problem. Honorable Speaker, remember that the reason why we were pleading to be added time was because we needed to consult with all the stakeholders so that we know the root cause of this problem. Honorable Speaker, I think, as Honorable Karuma said, this matter, everybody who is concerned was actually given a chance to be heard by the committee, including Honorable Russell. And to me, even though I'm not a lawyer, I think that just a basic question, Honorable Speaker, is what I'll call conflict of interest. You are a petitioner on a matter, Honorable Speaker, and when the report is written, you propose amendments to the report, and the recommendations or the amendments are carried, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think, as you said earlier, normally Thursdays the House doesn't have a lot of people, and with that one we are aware because we all go to the constituencies, others go to committee meetings. And really, Honorable Speaker, even though the records are there, I think, Honorable Speaker, I want to plead with you and agree with the minority leader that we might need to allow more time so that we look at this matter, Honorable Speaker, and more so the issue of the matter being unconstitutional. Because I think at any point as a House, I don't think we really need to vote on a matter which is being termed to be unconstitutional. So, Honorable Speaker, I really want to join my colleagues and ask you, plead with you, Honorable Speaker, that using standing order number 1, Honorable Speaker, I think you have the power to make a decision even before the question is put. I submit, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Chungwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also want to weigh in on some of the issues that have been raised. And Honorable Speaker, if you listened to begin with to the Honorable John Mbadi, as he sought an adjournment to the putting of the question, there is nothing in particular that the Honorable John Mbadi raised that was constitutional in nature. Indeed, it is Honorable Kaluma who has brought in the question of constitutionality, and it is not constitutionality of the recommendations that were amended by the member for Saku. 2, Honorable Speaker, there is a presupposition, Honorable Speaker, from the argument advanced by Honorable John Mbadi, that 1, the member for Saku was the petitioner in this case, and as has been clearly articulated by Honorable Murugara, the Honorable member for Saku presented a petition on behalf of the people of Saku and Marsabit County, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is quite clear, and the Leader of Majority, being a seasoned member of this House having his 3rd term, knows that our own standing orders, Honorable Speaker, prohibit a member from being a petitioner or petitioning. Therefore, the presupposition that the Honorable member for Saku was a petitioner is indeed wrong ab initio. And it is faulty. It is a faulty argument to advance the argument that the member for Saku was the petitioner in this case and therefore cannot even participate in the debate of the report that came to the House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the other question that you are being asked to rule on, Honorable Speaker, is exactly what you asked yourself. Can the Honorable John Mbadi or indeed any other member of this House ask the Speaker to negate a decision of this House? Mr. Speaker, you have sat there and told us that the best you can do is listen, but you cannot vote. And what John Mbadi is asking you to do this afternoon is not only to vote, but to negate the votes of all the members who spent taxpayers' time and taxpayers' money last Thursday and made a decision. Honorable Speaker, more substantively, Speaker, whenever any motion comes to this House, there are 2 or 3 things that you must do. You must debate, you take a vote, and you adopt either that motion or kill it. Honorable Speaker, that was done with this report. The report came to the House, it was debated, amendments were done under your signature, Honorable Speaker, because again, there is no amendment, be it in committee of the whole House or in a report like this during debate, that can happen without your signature allowing that amendment. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we cannot, Honorable Speaker, be asking what John Mbadi is asking us, that to now go back to what we already did as a House, because either John Mbadi or a few other people are not happy, or apparently because they were not there. Honorable Speaker, again, we are a House, Honorable Speaker, that is guided by our own traditions. The other question, Honorable Speaker, you should consider, is this the only and first report that has been amended in this House, Honorable Speaker? Think about the TJRC report. Was it amended? Think about the debate, Honorable Speaker, I think, I don't know if it's in this Parliament or the last Parliament, is in this Parliament, on the Ruaraka land scandal, Honorable Speaker, the one that was presented, I think, by Honorable Ihenya's committee. There were proposals to amend and they were allowed as much as they never went through. Therefore, it is not the first time that this House, Speaker, I was the Vice Chair of the Public Investments Committee in the last Parliament. And I have seen it on the floor of this House, members proposing amendments to committee reports, and it is the House that makes a decision, and some were defeated. If members of the Security Committee did not agree with the amendments that were proposed by the member for Saku, they had the liberty to lobby and convince the House to kill those amendments. But the fact that they were not able to do that, and the proposals that were brought by the member for Saku were debated by this House, Honorable Speaker, and the House passed a vote on them. then what Honorable John Mbadi is asking you to do, Honorable Speaker, is asking you to become a dictator, which is very dangerous, Honorable Speaker, especially for someone like you, knowing where you are headed, Honorable Speaker. You cannot even be seen by the people of Kenya to be having dictatorial tendencies that you can negate the vote of the House with your one or non-existent vote in this House, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, I just want to tell you, Honorable Speaker, it is not right that you can negate the vote of the House. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the question of constitutionality, I was just asking John Mbadi when we were consulting at the bench, Honorable Speaker, are we saying that as a member of Parliament, Honorable Speaker, that as a representative of the people, when a petition is lodged, or as an MP, I cannot present a petition before this House on behalf of people that I represent? And if I do, then I am gagged by this House, Honorable Speaker, that I cannot debate, I cannot amend, and I cannot vote on that particular issue. I think the more substantive constitutional issue is on the Bill of Rights for you as a member of Parliament, whether you have the right to represent your people and how you represent them, and whether anybody, including those in the executive, who may want to capture this House, Honorable Speaker. And that, Honorable Speaker, for me, is also a very critical issue, Honorable Speaker, that you must not, as Speaker, allow those in the executive to capture this House, Honorable Speaker.
That's why you can't just argue about now who is capturing who. I don't see the room for capture.
Honorable Speaker, I was only cautioning you, Honorable Speaker, that as Speaker, you may not allow anybody, be it in the executive or even you as Speaker, to capture the House and change the vote of the House. But indeed, in this case, Honorable Speaker, it's quite clear that there, and I've raised this issue, Honorable Speaker, before you, even with the Ministry of Interior, Honorable Speaker, and the questions that are before the same committee.
Now, you see, when we digress like this, it becomes very difficult for you. We are no longer dealing with...
Let me rest my case there, Honorable Speaker.
Now, something on what?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House enough times. And Mr. Speaker, this is a House of procedure. This is a House of traditions. Mr. Speaker, on the question whether the Speaker can be able to... Mr. Speaker, on the question whether the Speaker can be able to change the decision of this House, Mr. Speaker, the answer is no. Mr. Speaker, you have no vote. And in case you change, Mr. Speaker, it's tantamount to gross misconduct, Mr. Speaker, and it can be room for impeachment. The only person, Mr. Speaker, who can change the decision of this House is the President under Article 115 on presidential assent and referral, Mr. Speaker, and he must give justification. Mr. Speaker, Article 119 is clear. Anybody can petition this House, and this House can repeal or do an amendment. When a report comes on this floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, it's not automatic that an amendment will carry the day unless justification has been given. And Mr. Speaker, from procedure and traditions, we've seen it clearly that any amendment to come through here, you must append your signature for approval. Mr. Speaker, is this House to veto whatever decision? I remember in the last Parliament, Mr. Speaker, when I was in the Committee of Appointments, when we said that Phyllis Kandie was not fit at that time, Mheshimiwa brought an amendment. I think it was Honorable Millie or Honorable the Father of the House. Absolutely. And at that time, whatever decision was made, it carried the day. So it goes without saying, Mr. Speaker, at a time like this, is this House to make the decision? You have no right at all, Mr. Speaker, even to amend a comma. Is this House to make the decision? I thank you.
On the contrary, I have inherent power to make those grammatical. Just for your information, I have that inherent power to make those corrections, but they are grammatical, typographical errors. So you can't. But now, honourable members, I think we have a debate on this matter. Honorable Maore,
Mr. Speaker, I also wish to agree that this is a very weighty matter before us as a House today. I know there is the urge to pass this vote as carried by the House during the committee stage. And, Mr. Speaker, if we are the House of Lords, where you have the law lords, we can just pass it anyway because it can be intercepted there and corrected. But we don't have it. If you remember the issues elucidated by Honorable Odhiambo, I know there are people who want to put their cotton buds in their ears, they didn't want to hear them. Those are constitutional weighty matters. And Mr. Speaker, I would also wish to just plead with you. Using standing order number 1, we are not asking you to veto the vote of the House, but to look for a more amenable way of correcting the mistake that was done by overlooking the issues raised, which are constitutional. I remember myself, I spoke in seconding this report, but after the amendment, this is not the thing I did second. So, Mr. Speaker, my wish, you ignore the passion and the mob that is shouting about supporting without getting into the consequences of what we're asking. I would hate to hear refugees from Ethiopia are moved into Marsabit and Isiolo to come and become voters just because somebody wants numbers. So, Mr. Speaker, please save the country, use your office. Thank you.
This is the member for Wajir North, Honorable Abisalan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me confirm that Marsabit County is my neighbor, and at times the conflicts even happening in Marsabit happen within my constituency. I want to request members, I want to plead with members to be extremely careful and to sober up as much as we are making decisions here. The decisions we are making here can lead to loss of lives or can save lives. When I look at the contribution of the members, you are divided into your different political groups. You are not bothered about the lives and well-being of the people of Marsabit County. I want to urge you to sober up and make decisions in a very sober way. Mr. Speaker, that said, Mr. Speaker, that said, Mr. Speaker, I want to confirm once again that I have worked with the Kenya Red Cross Society as the regional manager for Northern Kenya, and Mr. Speaker, I have had a meeting with both communities during my tenure as regional manager. More than 5-6 meetings at Moyale, and as well as several meetings here at Nairobi. I am aware of a lot of information that members who are making contributions on the floor of this House are not aware. That notwithstanding, when I come to the real issue, Mr. Speaker, number 1, I believe in the fact that the wearer knows where the shoe pinches. They were better positioned to solve this issue, not on the floor of this House, but outside the floor of this House. But that said, still a petition was brought to this House. The committee have made their independent investigations. A report submitted. Now, the petitioner is making an amendment to a magnitude that changed the content of this report totally. Now, are we in a position to accept the report, which is no longer the report of the committee now, but the report of the petitioner? I will request my sister from Isiolo County to be cognizant of the fact that I am close to Marsabit more than her, and she should respect that fact. Mr. Speaker, number 1, we must, this is a house where justice is observed. We must be fair. Mistakes have happened. Now that mistakes have happened, shall we continue with the mistakes made, or we should stop at a certain position and ask ourselves, isn't it the right time to correct? We should not be creating dangerous precedences where one can make, where a petitioner can make an amendment to a magnitude that changes the entire report. Under Article 119, I appreciate that any person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority. But we must put safeguards in place to ensure that it is not mutilated to a level where we are causing confusion, where we are causing conflicts, where we are becoming war makers other than lawmakers. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a very difficult moment. It is a moment for you to go back to the drawing board. It is a moment for you to make a decision that will save lives. It is a moment for you to create a precedent where members cannot mutilate the report of a departmental committee to a level where they want. Mr. Speaker, in the event we put this question to members and make a decision today, we will be creating very dangerous precedents that will haunt all of us. Mr. Speaker, it may be bitter, but we must swallow the bitter pill, and we must go back to the drawing board and make a decision that will save lives and livelihood of the people of Marsabit County. I submit.
Now, honourable members. Now, members, because, now, Honourable Abdisalam decided to go and address, you're addressing the contents of the report and not this aspect which was brought out. Honourable Wanga will allow you just 3 minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I listened as Honourable Mbadi raised the issue of deferment. And what he was calling upon you was the fact that this matter is emotive. It is a matter that, whichever way it goes, can actually escalate conflict rather than reduce it. I listened to Honorable former Leader of Majority speaking. He spoke about winners, that somebody will win and another person will win and so on. So, Honorable Speaker, yourself, I want to just bring your attention to Article 10 of the Constitution, and the fact that we as state officers, including yourself, are called upon in the performance of our duties, not to just look at the letter of the law of what is happening, but also to look at our national values. That includes national unity. How are our decisions promoting national unity? And this is what I wanted to bring to your attention, Speaker, in addition to the issues that have been raised by our colleagues, Honorable Kaluma, Honorable Otiende, and the others who are raising constitutional matters. Can we defer this matter? Honorable Speaker, earlier on the chair, you spoke to the issue that we are coming closer to election, and therefore more prone to conflict. This is not the same year that we were in 2018, when we could make a decision and it just goes. As we move closer to election, we are also very, very likely to spark conflict with whatever decision that we make. We are dealing with conflict in Upya. We are dealing with conflict in several parts of this country. So, Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to, on the basis of Article 10, ask you to use Standing Order number 1 to defer this question, so that also the temperatures can come down, so that people can... I was here, Honorable Speaker, I was here on Thursday when this matter was being debated, when the amendments were being debated. Even very close friends of mine, they were almost fighting, they were very agitated. It's a very emotive issue, and I understand. But, Honorable Speaker, if this House can serve a purpose in cooling down the temperatures, then it is called upon us to do so. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now, we must bring this to an end. I think I've had sufficient representation, and I have looked at both the Constitution and the standing orders. First of all, this matter we are dealing with is a report of a committee on a petition And if you look at starting under 227, subsection 2, actually, it says the Speaker may allow, after tabling of a report, some comments, not debates, for a period not exceeding 20 minutes. Not a debate. Because, and the reason why the standing order reads like that, and I'm happy that the Honorable T.J. Gajuang is here, and he's been very passionate about the rules. This is one of the areas that our own standing orders have a lacuna. Because the petition is merely reported to the petitioner. The report is tabled, no debate, except in exceptional circumstances. I allowed this one because, as you all will appreciate, when the Honorable Russell read out his petition, there were quite a number of other issues from other members from around Marsabit County, which touched on insecurity. And therefore, really, the report on that was exceptional. And I'm also aware, indeed, the committee spent quite some time listening not just to the members of parliament concerned, but also the residents. And a report which the committee has gone to such length, surely it was not going to just be reported on, the clerk to just write to the Honorable Russell, and then we walk away. Go with the report, it may be filed in his cabinet, and enjoy it as part of his legacy. It was fair that the House expresses itself one way or other on the issues that the committee found on the ground. And therefore, I allowed that the report of the committee on this petition was to be debated. I have looked at the recommendations, even after the amendments. I'm just wondering, number one, a recommendation that the Cabinet Secretary for Coordination of National Government as a matter of urgency ensures adequate National Police Service personnel are deployed to Marsabit, and any existing gaps to be filled by Kenya Police Reservists in coordination and consultation with the National Police Service. I see no harm in that. We always recommend that the Cabinet, the Executive do this or the other. The other one, the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, the National Lands Commission, as a matter of urgency, should address the disputes and clearly demarcate administrative and communal boundaries in Marsabit County. This is a recommendation on our members. Those to whom it is directed are at liberty, upon receipt of the recommendation, to say, well, because even the National Commission can investigate historical land injustices on its own motion or upon being moved. This, in my view, is just a way of trying to move them, go into the area, find out what is the problem. They may or they may not, and they will have their reasons for not, if they feel it is not necessary. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior should rationalize the creation of new sub-counties in Marsabit and address the current imbalance across the 4 constituencies. Again, I see no harm in this. It's a recommendation. 19, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior should facilitate the return of Kenyan refugees in Ethiopia. Yeah, it's facilitation. It's facilitation. How that is done through the avenues of the law dealing with the refugees, isn't it? Commission of inquiry should be established. It's up to those responsible of establishing, setting up a commission of inquiry to look at your recommendation. They can even say, oh, sorry, Parliament, you overstepped your mandate. You have no authority to direct us to set up a commission of inquiry. And they will be within the, if the law says they can only act on their own motion. So, I see, so, honourable members, these I think they don't appear injurious. And then the other issue is the Honourable John Bandi rose and standing order number 53 requested for deferment of putting the question, which is perfect, but that deferment can only happen for 1 day. And if I was to be persuaded to do so, I must appoint the time at which the question will still be put. And that's standing order number 53. So, honourable members, having determined that these recommendations, in the manner that they are not injurious, I have only one issue that should be directed to the Procedure and House Rules Committee as to how in future we deal with the whole question of petitions. I know there's a bill. I think one of you has proposed a bill, Petitions to Parliament bill. You'll have to decide whether you want to have that governed by an act of Parliament or through your own standing orders. As it is, when people bring their petitions, when the committee completes, we occasionally just write back to them and tell them, it's like what you write, what you see written RTS. You return to sender the findings. Now, the committee could even make recommendations, which the House does not have to adopt. The House merely notes. But of course, as you all know, those kind of reports are not as efficacious as those that carry a resolution of the House as a House. And I think Honorable TJ, you and I, and Honorable Patrick Marilu, and Honorable Mulele, and Honorable Cheboy, we have some work to do, because this is an area that we need to clean up, even if it's for posterity. We don't have to be the ones to implement, so that those that come after us will have some better, more improved method of dealing with petitions. There? Honorable TJ Kajwang is already thinking about a retreat to the island of the Seychelles. So, honourable members, I determined as follows, that the House, as a House, having been moved by the Honourable Russell to consider his proposed amendments, and having carried those amendments, it will be a greater travesty on the part of the Speaker to purport to overturn that decision by the House. I can assure you I will not do that, because I will be assuming a vote that I am specifically barred from assuming under Article 122 of the Constitution. And therefore, honourable members, because as one former member of the House, the late J.J. Kamodo, said about something that used to happen at some place called Kasarani. So now, this decision now rests on your shoulders and not on mine. Yeah? Can I take my seat to allow those members to make their way? Let them make their way in. Okay. So, honourable members, I will read the motion in full. And it is as follows. I put the question. This is a motion as amended. That this House adopts a report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on its consideration of a public petition regarding insecurity in Saku constituency and the larger Marsabit County, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, August 11th, 2021, subject to Roman 1, deletion of recommendation 2, appearing under recommendations in part 5 on page 90 of the report, Roman 2, deletion of the words including Ambalo, Badan, Rero, Ele, Elebor, Ele Dimtu, Dimtu, and Kubi Kalo, after the word county in recommendation 4, appearing under recommendations in part 5 on page 90 of the report. Roman 3, deletion of recommendation 8, appearing under recommendations in part 5 on page 91 of the report, and substitution with the following. The new 8. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, as a matter of urgency, ensures adequate National Police Service personnel are deployed to Marsabit, and any existing gaps to be filled by Kenya Police Reservists in coordination and consultation with the National Police Service. 2, number 4, deletion of the ones in Koso, Banchale, Salesa, and Isako Umuro, after the ones displaced persons in recommendation 4, appearing under recommendations part 5 on page 91 of the report. 5, insertion of the following new recommendations under recommendations in part 5 on page 92 of the report. The new 17, the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning and the National Land Commission, as a matter of urgency, should address the disputes and clearly demarcate administrative and communal boundaries in Marsabit County. 18, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government should rationalize the creation of new sub-counties in Marsabit County and address the current imbalance across the 4 constituencies, that is Saku, Laisamis, North Hor, and Moyale, as a matter of urgency. And new 19, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government should facilitate the return of Kenyan refugees in Ethiopia. 20, a commission of inquiry should be established pursuant to the provisions of Commission of Inquiry Act Cap 103 to comprehensively look into the perennial security problems of Marsabit County and come up with a lasting solution. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Yeah, I think, you are enough to demand for a division. Yeah? Yeah, you have the numbers. You have the numbers. Honour members, very quickly, I direct the Sergeant at Arms to ring the division bell for 10 minutes in the first instance. 10 minutes. Ring the division bell. Okay, honor members, take your seats, take your seats. Take your seats, take your seats. Stop, take your seats, stop the division bell. Draw the bars and lock the doors. Draw the bars and lock the doors. Members who may be behind who desire to come, they better come. If they intend to participate, can you? Very well. Hello? This is it. Yeah. Okay, honour members, take your seats so that we can clear this now. That one. That might be the member for Larry, is it? Now, honour members, I've been informed that there are some members who don't have cards. Is that correct? Or have cards which are malfunctioning? This one, member for Nyamira, we have not finished. Once the bars have been drawn, you can't even walk out, so there's no need. So, honour members, we therefore will do a hybrid. A hybrid for those who have cards. I believe all of you now have withdrawn them. You have locked out. Yeah? Those that have no cards, please approach the just approach the both right and left. No. No, pass, there's no problem. So, here is evidence, honour members, that many of you have lost your accounts. Or you just wake up from some places. So, these ones, so now honour members with the cards. Yeah? You know, these ones who are coming. Even the member for Madare doesn't. Well, I can understand the member for Madare not having a card. Member for Madare can't have a card. So, honour members, I will now read the question again in keeping with our rules of procedure. Now, honour members, I will read the question again for those that may have just been dragged from the various places or from the streets. The question is, the House adopts a report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on its consideration of a public petition regarding insecurity in Saku constituency and the larger Marsabit County, motion as amended. Honour members, now log in for those of you who have cards.
These ones will not go back
Yeah.
until the end of the voting. This one will
So-
Okay.
So, no. Now, honor members, the machine is counting. So, yeah, it doesn't happen. No, the machine is still counting how many people are in. Now, honor members. The system is logging in. Oh, yako ni ile ya Kibira.
It's not asking for the PIN number. We have not yet voted.
No, honor members, we have not voted. Member for Onyenjes is not your commercial bank of Africa account.
20 seconds login. 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Login.
Hmm. 10 seconds. Yes. And those of you who are this way, please, you cannot go back there until the voting is electronic voting is complete.
I'll take your vote now.
Vote now. Vote now.
Go. Go.
Now, please. One by one.
No, you cannot come here. No. How do you know? The speaker has not announced. Have you seen the minutes? No. How do you know? No, have you seen your name? No, they are going to give you the physical results. That's the only time.
electronic ones. Take electronic. I, nose, abstention. For electronic. Plus is 43, right? Nose, 61. Abstention, none. Now I'm waiting for your tally. What am I doing? No.
Yes, totally. 19. Polling station was closed. 19 yes, 2 no.
Polling station was closed. Please wait for the speaker. Yes, yes. Check again, just check again. No. Check your totals again. So my totals are therefore the nose has it. Sign.
Honourable members, honourable members, honourable members. Honourable members, now you can take your seats, honourable members. You can take your seats. You can take your seats. You can take your seats. Now, Honorable Shamala, take your seat. Now, honourable members, this is the result of the division. Electronically, the ayes 43, the nays 61. Manual voting, the ayes 19, the nays 13. Total, the ayes 62, the nays 74. Honourable members, the nays have it, and the net result is the motion is lost. Next order. You can open the doors, withdraw the bars, open the doors. Now, honourable members, we are not yet out. Honorable Gosing. Now,
We are adjourning the house at 5:30. Why? There's an adjournment motion. At 5:30? At 5:30, yeah. Because it's 1 hour. Oh,
yeah, honour members, remember I had ruled that at 5:30 the House will be moved by the member for Garissa Township to adjourn to discuss the matter of the drought. But I had also allowed that the member, the chair of the Finance Committee will table her report. Please, Honourable Wanga.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. A report of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on its inquiry into the following. 1. Public petition number 39 of 2021 regarding review of abnormal increments in prices and petroleum products in the country. And 2. Public petition number 40 of 2021 on a request to amend the Finance Act 2018 in order to address the drastic increase in prices of petroleum and petroleum products. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Duale. Honourable Duale.
No, are we giving a notice, no?
Give.
We're just tabling the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise under Standing Order 33, Sub-Article 1, to seek the leave of the House in order to discuss a definite matter of urgent national importance regarding the ravaging drought situation in the pastoral counties, including Garissa, Wajir, Turkana, Marsabit, Mandera, and most parts of the country. Mr. Speaker, from last year, the Meteorological Department gave a very bleak picture on the expected rains in the country. This year, the situation, Mr. Speaker, has not been different, and with the reduced and depressed or no rains, including the short rains, Kenyans in the arid and semi-arid areas are experiencing what I have never seen before, and nothing short of a humanitarian crisis. Mr. Speaker, indeed, during the month of August 2021, most arid and semi-arid counties, including my own county of Garissa, remained generally dry, and rainfall received was below average. Mr. Speaker, I have just come back from Garissa, and Mr. Speaker, I am sure the country is cognizant of the situation in the north. It has never happened. It has never happened. The last time we saw this kind of drought was in 2011. And last month, Mr. Speaker, the President declared the drought a national disaster. The situation is likely to worsen in the second half of 2021 with the negative consequences for household food security, for crop production, for livestock production, especially for my people who are largely pastoralists, and access to water is a big issue. Mr. Speaker, the drought that has affected this part of the country and most of the Kenyans in this country has been made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has adverse effects on both the economy, the social status of these residents, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you'll recall, although the drought can be traced to last year, the phenomena started even earlier when the country was faced by the locust invasion, which cleared all the vegetation in the arid and semi-arid counties. Mr. Speaker, I really want this House to look at the Kenya Food Security Outlook report and the National Drought Management Authority report that projects that in the pastoral areas, livestock conditions have deteriorated due to lack of vegetation and access to water. Mr. Speaker, mothers and children and our herders were trekking for over 50 kilometers in search of water and pasture. Mr. Speaker, you have seen not only the pastoralist livelihood is affected and their lives, but even the wildlife. And I'm sure colleagues have seen on social media a giraffe that has been affected and has gone blind, and you have seen young men giving water to, a very insensitive and dire situation. You will not imagine, Mr. Speaker, that these people in this region of the country are not part of Kenya. That there is no government that is sensitive to. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, if these short rains are not realized this month or end of this month or next month, then there will be a serious humanitarian catastrophe in all these regions. Mr. Speaker, or at least 2.1 million Kenyans who are severely food insecure, and this number is expected to rise to 2.4 million people by next month. Over 465,000 children under the age of 5 and 93,000 pregnant or lactating mothers are actually malnourished in this region, Mr. Speaker. Quite unfortunate. As a country, we must protect our children and women. And for me today, I want to stand to be counted. Mr. Speaker, from the statistics given by the government, over 2 million Kenyans are now facing severe starvation, which might lead to death. And according to the Flash Appeal Kenya Drought Report, there is need for $139.5 million that is required to avert the drought crisis. Honorable Speaker, what is the government doing about this? After declaring the drought a national disaster, what next? And what response strategies have we put in place to provide life-saving and life-sustaining? Mr. Speaker, our counties have been denied their resources by the National Treasury. Counties are only receiving recurrent. If today our counties are receiving their emergency funds, I am sure our governors and our leaders will be up to the task to at least provide water and food to our people. Mr. Speaker, it is very disheartening, it is very shameful that today in 2021, one of our own, a pastoralist whose constituency has been worst affected, is at the helm of the National Treasury. History will judge us. He will be remembered as a minister who looked and watched as our people die when he was sending money to other areas where there is water and food. Shame on him, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the essence of my adjournment motion is we need to find solution. Government needs to provide solution. Government needs to rally the donor community. Government needs to rally the private sector, the way we did it in 2011, and saves the lives of its people. Mr. Speaker, you can read what is going on in the Horn of Africa. Other countries are doing better. Mr. Speaker, I am sure the over 80 members of parliament who come from these 14 counties, unfortunately, most of them are not here. Most of them are not here. I said most. Mr. Speaker, this is, I said most if you have gone to an English class. I'm sure there are some. Yes, Honorable Chachu is here, Honorable Sophia, I can count. The Sonkok and Kolosh and many others from Meru and everywhere. And Honorable Member for North. I am sure this and the member for Siolo North. This is the time when our and Tharaka, member for Tharaka. This is the time, more than any other time, when we must rise to the occasion. We must forget our political affiliation. Those who are in the handshake needs to walk to the National Treasury. Those who are in this house and in other political affiliation, we must discard. We must not behave like the petition that in either way gave Honorable Russell to be the winner, because the original report was implicating him. The amendment was not wanted. So, Honorable Russell, you are a winner, and I have said it. Mr. Speaker, I want the Budget Committee of this House. I want the National Security Committee of this House. They must rise to the occasion. We must call government to order. We must call the CS National Treasury, CS Devolution, CS Matiangi. The people of the North are dying, and they are not dying not because of the constant insecurity that they face, not because of diseases. They are dying because of the effects of drought. They are dying because government response is not there, or it is very slow. We want to ask government to talk to its friends and partners and create a humanitarian crisis appeal to all our friends that food, water. Mr. Speaker, in the 10th Parliament, and Honorable Millie Odhiambo will agree with me, in the 2011, when Prime Minister Raila Odinga was the man in charge and President Kibaki, the military and the NYS with their trucks were mobilized, and each constituency there were over 10 trucks doing water tracking. What is wrong with this government? Why is this government so insensitive? What has the people of Northern Kenya committed? And I want to ask our friends who are running around with an outfit called Upya or Upuzi. You will face the wrath of the Almighty God. Our people are dying, and you are selling Upuzi to our people. Our people will not buy that Upuzi. Our people, they know what kind of leaders they will choose. The contest is between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Tell us, the people of Upuzi, who is your candidate? Yeah, you better say it. Why are you hiding? When you were in Garissa, you said it was Raila Odinga. When you come back, you want to hide. The horses have been defined. Shame on you, those in government from northern Kenya. Shame on you. Shame on you. You are working on the graves of your people.
Honorable members, this business is business under Order 33, which is a matter of urgent national interest. It's not a matter for one region of the country. So as we go on, you will remember that each member contributing will have 5 minutes. And honorable members, I'm proposing to just follow the list the way it is. So don't carry up your hands, don't interfere. The list is here, I'll just follow it. And the first one on my list is the Honorable Garane Hire, member for Ladder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to support this adjournment motion. Mr. Speaker, the situation in the north is dire. Mr. Speaker, on August 2021, a similar adjournment motion was brought to this House, which we exhaustively debated. And Mr. Speaker, 3 months down the line, you will see absolutely no response on the ground. Mr. Speaker, even after the President of the Republic of Kenya has declared the drought as a national disaster, the response has been painfully slow, if at all there is any, because we have been to the constituencies, we have been to the counties, and absolutely nothing is going on. Mr. Speaker, I don't know when this help will come. We have allocated 2 billion shillings to respond to this. But you see, the sad thing about this is this response will come when all our livestock are dead, when our people are dead, and when everybody, is seriously, affected by this drought. So, Mr. Speaker, we are questioning, why, what is wrong? What's wrong with this government? We have been crying every day and night so that our people can get some help. But, Mr. Speaker, I don't know the people of the north, whether they belong to this country or not. Because in other places, Mr. Speaker, if a landslide occurs, we will see choppers, we will see, a lot of humanitarian response. But, Mr. Speaker, an area as vast as northern Kenya is getting no response, even by the declaration of the President as a national disaster. So, Mr. Speaker, you see, KDF has thousands of water boozers. NYS has thousands of water boozers. All these water boozers are lying, idle in the camps. Why don't they be taken to the north to give water to our people? Mr. Speaker, we were told that the government has a program called offtake, that they are going to buy livestock from, the weak livestock from our people. But, Mr. Speaker, nothing is going on. We were told they are going to provide, grass. Hay. Mr. Speaker, we were told they are going to provide hay to the livestock. Nothing is going on. NDMA has got billions lying in the accounts. What are they doing with it? Mr. Speaker, this is a sad state. This is a very sorry state, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if nothing is not done in the next couple of days, we will not be talking about the people in the north. You see so many people, presidential candidates, are encouraging people to go and register. How does a hungry man go and register as a voter? They can't even get water. They are not even there at their villages. They have moved thousands of kilometers, some into Ethiopian border, some into Somalia border. So, Mr. Speaker, you just wonder, a country like Kenya cannot do, a proper response, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, weaker countries, neighboring weaker countries have better response than our country. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the saddest things. Mr. Speaker, and finally, Upya is the new kid on the block. Upya is the new kid on the block. Upya is a vehicle we are going to negotiate, and it's a vehicle we are going to sit at the table. Because I'm sure if Upya now will be having a stake in the government, we will not be talking about these issues we are having now. Because somebody will be sitting at the table to raise the issues on Northern Kenya. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I support this motion. Thank you very much. And it's not the pussy, it's called Upya.
The member for Ijara, the Honorable Nur Sophia.
Thank you so much, Chair, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this very, very important motion, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, I want to thank the mover of the motion, Honorable Adam Barre Duale. Two, and Mr. Speaker, it is really very, very sad situation that we are facing in the north. Mr. Speaker, I have been to the constituency, and what I have seen, I have never seen such a kind of situation in my constituency, Ijara, Mr. Speaker. People have migrated as far as Wajir, Marsabit, and everywhere you'll find the animals in my constituency. And they are dying in numbers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is really hurting to see a pastoralist man crying or killing himself because he has lost his animals, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, we have had a lot of wildlife-human conflict, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the number of people who have been hurt because of fight between the animals, wildlife and human, fighting over the small resources within the region is also a huge number who have been affected, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the children and the elderly people who are left behind in the houses are dying in numbers. At this time, when we have COVID with us, we do not have anything to give to those people, Mr. Speaker. They do not have any meal, they are elderly, they are left behind, they do not have people who can even ferry for them water in their houses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have the young who are under 5, Mr. Speaker. They do not have water, they do not have milk, they do not have anything in their houses because the animals have shifted. The animals have crossed borders, both to Ethiopia and Somalia, Mr. Speaker. We do not have any animals within the around. Those which are around are very weak and dying, Mr. Speaker. If you go, the media has not covered this disaster, Mr. Speaker. If you go to those constituencies, and what you will witness is that you will not eat food for the next 5 days, Mr. Speaker, because of the situation that is on the ground, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is only not important to declare disaster. When His Excellency the President has declared drought as a national disaster, Mr. Speaker, and there's nothing that follows up after that, it becomes a problem. Mr. Speaker, our appeal is beyond this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Kenyan government has taken responsibility and they have taken oath, Mr. Speaker, of protecting and supporting and reaching out to the vulnerable communities within this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we have a problem, like the problem we are facing with tea and coffee, immediately we have got subsidies, Mr. Speaker. But when it comes to livestock, Mr. Speaker, and livestock is the backbone economy of the region, Mr. Speaker, we do not have proper plan and strategy to address the problems that are facing the community, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other major issue is water is a basic and human right under the Constitution, under Article 42 and 43. At this time of era, Mr. Speaker, when people and animals are dying because there is no water within the boundary of this country, Mr. Speaker, it is very saddening. It's very sad. It is very inhuman. It is disaster, Mr. Speaker. I cannot believe at this era that a person will die because there is no water in this country, Mr. Speaker, in a village. Mr. Speaker, both the national government and the county government have failed the people of Northern Kenya. The people of Northern Kenya have been left alone, Mr. Speaker, at this time when they are really having the major problems, Mr. Speaker. And if you do not help the people of Northern Kenya today, when will be the time you will help them, Mr. Speaker? When? Because this is the time. This is the time. They have missed rains for 2 consecutive rainy seasons, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Guyo Wario, member for Garsen. The Honorable Guyo. The Honorable Guyo, you have just walked in. You will have to wait a little. All right, proceed. Now you are in the House. You are within the confines of the House. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also contribute on this matter. Mr. Speaker, the issue drought is really affecting our people. Mr. Speaker, people have lost livestock and have started to commit suicide because of the loss. So, Mr. Speaker, this matter has been announced as a national disaster by the President, but a little is being done on the ground. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm urging this House to urgently allocate all other matter of urgency to save those people and compensate the pastoralists for the loss, because the government is to advise the pastoralists on the weather so that they can plan to do either destocking and restocking. But there were no advice by the Ministry of Agriculture. So, Mr. Speaker, I request the government to compensate the pastoralists for the loss. Thank you.
You are done? Very well. The Honorable Lesankok, nominated member.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, as in the pastoralist region, not only in the north, even in the south, in Kajiado and Narok, Honorable Speaker, our animals are dying. Our people are dying, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and the government is not willing to address this issue once and for all. And it is for a long time that we have been considered as an appendix without function, but exists nonetheless in this country. Yet we sit on 80% of the landmass of this country. We sit on natural resources like the wind power in Turkana, like the oil in Turkana, like the geothermal electric power in Narok, and tourism that is a source of foreign honor in our country, Honorable Speaker. But we are not being treated equally with other parts of this country. And it's a high time that we say we must be treated like others. Honorable Speaker, when you see some of us passionately fighting for the leadership of the hustlers, Honorable Speaker, it is because these leaders know what it means by going hungry, Honorable Speaker. Some of our leaders who are born with a silver spoon, Honorable Speaker, if you tell them that you did not eat food, Honorable Speaker, they will check your temperatures and see if you have malaria or typhoid or lack of appetite, Honorable Speaker, because they don't know what it means to sleep hungry on an empty stomach, because your mother, your father have done everything possible but have not found anything to be eaten, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, our animals, Honorable Speaker, are not only emaciated, Honorable Speaker, but they are dying in large numbers. We plead through this House, Honorable Speaker, and through you, that the private companies, the Red Cross, the international community, come in and save us and give us humanitarian aid, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we need to rescue these people, Honorable Speaker. And it is not those days when maize or ration had to be transported to all this part of the country, Honorable Speaker. We are now in a digital era, Honorable Speaker. Money can be transferred digitally using M-Pesa or any other mobile money transfer, and it reach to the beneficiaries within seconds, and they have the purchasing power to save their dying children, Honorable Speaker, to save their dying pregnant women, Honorable Speaker, to save their dying fathers, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we need approximately 150 billion Kenya shillings for this project. I think the government can afford that one. The government is not too poor not to afford a mere 150 billion Kenya shillings to save its citizen, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have heard of off-take project, Honorable Speaker. We have not seen. Personally, I have a ranch, Honorable Speaker. My cows are dying in large numbers, Honorable Speaker. We have only heard this thing over the media that they will be off-take, that they will buy our animals. But for how long will they be buying our animals, Honorable Speaker? It is high time that NDMA, Honorable Speaker, which is supposed to be a custodian of the funds that is for the arid and semi-arid region, come with projects, Honorable Speaker. Projects like harvesting grass, because during rainy season, the grass is more than the animals, Honorable Speaker. Harvesting those grass, putting into haze, Honorable Speaker. It is high time that we have animal feeds in our food reserve, Honorable Speaker. Because if you feed only human beings, you don't feed animals. Some of us are fed by those animals through milk and through meat, Honorable Speaker, and we may die because you are trying to feed human beings and not feeding animals at the same time. Honorable Speaker, lastly, these characters in the weather focus, Honorable Speaker, they are earning without doing their job, Honorable Speaker. If they were predicting well, the weather well, Honorable Speaker, the country will be able to prepare itself. Even the pastoralists must be able to prepare themselves. President declared drought as a national disaster. Declaring it only is not enough. That's why we are telling our president, with due respect, our president, your citizens are dying. Come and save them, because they elected you so that you can protect them. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I do support this motion.
The Honorable Millie Odhiambo. And you inform me whether it is possible to sleep when you are hungry, because when you are hungry, I don't think you can sleep. It is a very troubling thing. Proceed, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. For a moment, I thought sleeping when you're hungry was aimed at me. But, Mr. Speaker, that aside, I just want to say that I support this, Mr. Speaker. And I want to indicate that, Mr. Speaker, that this is as a consequence of climate change. And, Mr. Speaker, climate change manifests itself in various ways. In the north, it manifests itself as drought. In my constituency, we actually have overflooding. The waters are rising. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, at around 8 p.m., I was moving from Fangano Island to Rusinga Island, and I almost drowned with my team because of the waters. And, Mr. Speaker, even 2 days ago, we lost yet another 3 people in the lake because of this. Mr. Speaker, so I would just want to urge the government that in dealing with this, we should not be having sporadic efforts, but we should look at this issue holistically as a consequence of climate change and deal with the issue of climate change and seek lasting solutions, being realistic about what we are dealing with. And we must also be innovative. Where there is too much, needs to balance with where there is lack. Like in my area, people are dying because of water. Actually, there were yesterday, because there was such a huge storm, the trees were uprooted, houses, people lost their houses yesterday. And, Mr. Speaker, it is also not good because the weather is also now very erratic. People don't know when to plant because before it was November, now it's a different scenario. But I want to say that we have actually seen what is going on in the northern Kenya. And it is a tragedy that many people are dying. And I want to thank one of the media houses that rain actually what was going on. And one of the greater challenges, Mr. Speaker, is that we actually have governors who are also mandated to do the kind of work that we are still seeking the national government to do. One of the areas that was under focus was Turkana. And we are not being told, for instance, what the county is doing. But they also have money, Mr. Speaker. So I just want to encourage our governors that we need to have a paradigm shift, a mental paradigm shift. It's not just a national government. And I also want to encourage the members in the House that are also blaming the national government, that you must know that when the president declares drought a national disaster, it comes with implications, Mr. Speaker. It means resources will follow that decision. And you cannot expect that a declaration and immediately things have changed. So I think members need to know that. But as a House, we must bring it to the attention of the government that this is a crisis that we want to deal with. Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate that my dear good friend and brother, Honorable Duale, would want to attack people who are busy doing their own work, calling Upya upuzi. Mr. Speaker, when we know very well that we have ufisadi daima, which he belongs to, so you'd rather have upuzi than have ufisadi daima, because ufisadi daima is actually what is resulted in Kimarera and Aror, that is also causing people to die because of drought, because of the issue of corruption. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want him to know that do not throw glasses in stones at a glass when you live in a glass house. And him actually lives in a very brittle glass house, Mr. Speaker. We don't want a lot of noise with no action, as we have just seen right now. And so, Mr. Speaker, let us look at assisting Kenyans without bringing unnecessary sideshows. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Murugara Gitonga, member for Tharaka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm quite distant from my neighbors, so allow me to just talk without my mask on and rise to support this very important motion moved by Honorable Duale, that we actually discuss the issue of drought in the country as a matter of national importance. While there is a very good case made out for the northeastern regions, may I draw the attention of the country and of the government that drought is also ravaging my constituency, Tharaka. Actually, Tharaka borders northeastern and also borders the eastern Ukambani and all those areas that are afflicted by drought. And as we pray for the short rains to come in, it is evident that we are going to have hardships in these areas and in my constituency, and the government must take immediate action to ensure that the situation is remedied. There is an acute shortage of food and pasture, and we are afraid that we may start losing livestock. But most important is lack of food, especially now that children are back in school. We are calling upon the government to ensure that we have sufficient relief food, which we can give out to schools so that our children are kept learning while we await the rains and the crops to mature. There is also totally lack of water. We have many rivers that traverse the Tharaka constituency, but most of them have dried. Some of it is due to the climatic changes that occur, but also we know for sure that in upper areas that border Tharaka, there may be illegal blockages that may actually lead to the reduction of the water and drying up of the rivers. And I've called upon the government to act with speed. If there are illegal blockages of these rivers, this must be undone. This drought menace is evidence that rain-fed agriculture is actually not reliable. And the government must move away from telling Kenyans, wait for rains to plant, wait for rains to harvest, to ensuring that we have sufficient irrigation water throughout the country, and especially in my constituency, Tharaka. We are able to construct dams and dikes which can harvest this water and which can store it so that it is used for purposes of agriculture, livestock, and also human consumption. The National Drought Management Authority is one entity in the country whose functions cannot be explained at all. And especially when I'm told it has offices in Tharaka, while I have been waiting for them to take action on matters drought, and nothing whatsoever has been done regarding this. I must today raise the voice for my constituents that drought is actually afflicting the people. Drought is going to lead to children dropping out of school. Drought is going to lead to great loss of livestock because we do not know whether these rains will come soon or they may be prolonged. In these circumstances, it is purely and it's on the shoulders of a government and nobody else, absolutely. The national government, the executive, to ensure we have sufficient money that is going to buy relief food, that is going to ensure water is given to areas where there is no water, and also, if necessary, we got to get pasture for our livestock. The county government must also come in, and we have also seen very little of the county government of Tharaka Nithi as regards this drought. They have the money, let them make use of that money wisely. The children of Tharaka constituency are not children of a lesser God. They are Kenyans like everyone else, and therefore these matters of drought must also be addressed for my constituency as we address the rest of Kenya, including Northeastern. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well spoken. The Honorable Mohammed Kolosh, member for Wajir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in support of this adjournment motion, and because of the seriousness of this drought. Honorable Speaker, the effect and the problems caused by the drought has been said by those who spoke before me. But it's important to say that it seems there is a wider government strategy to punish the people of northern Kenya for reasons we don't know. Honorable Speaker, the inaction by government, especially on the response to the drought, can just be described as genocide. Because when government, because of inaction of government, people lose their property and their lives, then it is as good as saying the government has caused the problem. Honorable Speaker, there are many problems that government has instigated. Some of them include the educational crisis in the north. For the last 3 years, our children have not seen teachers. Honorable Speaker, the insecurity, the report we have just been debating in Marsabit is just but one. Every other constituency in the region has one problem or the other related to insecurity, whether it is Al-Shabaab, clan clashes, or differences between communities, but the government does nothing to bring those problems to a stop. It seems that the government enjoys the problems taking place in the north. Honorable Speaker, to make matters worse, our people have been undercounted during the censoring period. This was a deliberate government policy. I can tell you and stand here that the number of people in my constituency have been reduced by half, and this I said many times. And this is where I disagree with members who think that now coalescing around some amorphous bodies like Upya or whatever will solve our problems. There is no table that is higher and stronger than being in the cabinet secretary, being a cabinet secretary for treasury. If today we are in the cabinet and cabinet secretary for treasury and we can't do anything, up to and including sending the emergency funds for our counties to respond, then I don't know what other table we are going to sit to improve the livelihoods of our people. Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Chris Wamalwa, out of order.
Honorable Speaker, yesterday I sent photos of a dumping site of livestock, the ones that have died and have been collected from villages and whatever. The communities in my constituency have created a number of dumping sites. I sent those photos to the President, just to tell him and to alert him that this is what is going on. Even the drought that has been declared as a national disaster was not declared because of the report of the institutions that were charged with such responsibilities, like the NDMA, but because of politicians visiting and begging the President to declare drought as a national disaster. And even after that, no action has been taken. The minister in charge of devolution has visited my county 3 or 4 days ago. Not a quarter of whatever he has said he has come with has been delivered to the site. not a quarter, whether it is animal feeds or food for the people. Not a quarter of what he said he came with has been taken to the ground. So we are just being shown semantics that government is forming. Photos, you are taking photos with dying people and livestock. People have lost their animals. Honorable Speaker, it is important for the people of the North to learn that this government does not care about their interests, their lives, and their properties, and therefore look for a method to cope with their problems. Honorable Speaker, finally, the weatherman has spoken and has said that the rains in the North will be short of the expectations. We pray to God that they miss this one and that they will not get it right. But if that comes to pass, the situation is expected to worsen. This is why we want to urge government, and we have said it many times, I know they will not listen, to finally, at one point, listen to this problem. Because the people of the North will one day rise and find how it is.
The Honorable Hulufo Oda, member for Isiolo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank the mover of this motion. Indeed, the prevailing drought condition is a matter of national concern. I can confirm, as somebody who was born and brought up in Asal of Kenya, more specifically in the arid part of this republic, that in my living memory, this is one of the worst droughts that we have experienced. Mr. Speaker, it has been worsened by the corona pandemic. Actually, in the North, the livestock market collapsed before we started experiencing drought because the consumers of our livestock products, particularly meat, from our beef cattle and also from our sheep and goats, most of them ended up being jobless, and therefore there was no demand for our products. And we have gone through 2 subsequent rain failures. As we speak, Mr. Speaker, 2.1 million people in Asal are at risk of starvation. And I thank the President for declaring this as a national disaster, but what we expected following that declaration was fast-tracking of implementation of appropriate interventions. Interventions that could save lives, interventions that could enable our children to remain in school, intervention that could help our people not die of starvation, intervention that could also help us protect our assets and our livelihood. Mr. Speaker, before I joined this House, I was an expert actually on drought risk management. In the year 2011, the last time we faced a drought of this magnitude, I was part of a consultative team which went round Horn of Africa, and as a country we developed what we call Ending Drought Emergency by 2022. 2022 is here with us. Unfortunately, as a country, after failure of 2 rainy seasons, we have ended up with an emergency. What this tells us, particularly from North, is that we have a government which does not care. That framework, which is called EDE, if it was resourced adequately year after year, from 2012 up to this year, we will not have ended up with the current drought emergency. Mr. Speaker, what we need to do, and what I personally recommend, and unfortunately, you know, this matter seems to be a northern affair. I don't see the leadership of this House from majority party as well as the minority party. And yet when they are interested in our votes, they are putting us into camps, you know, visiting our people in the name of Upya or in the name of UDA. Unfortunately, I don't see either here. And I think this will be a lesson for us, especially those of us who represent people who are ravaged by drought. I was expecting the chairman of Budget and Appropriation Committee, Budget of Finance, to be here. We need immediately, you know, to initiate a process where supplementary budget can be passed, because according to estimate by government and also UN agencies, what we need to effectively respond to this emergency is about 9.4 billion. We have 2 billion from our National Drought Emergency Fund, whose regulation we passed recently. The gap should be found through an immediate supplementary budget which must be brought to this House so that we can facilitate line ministries to implement, school feeding programs, so that we can also waive fees for secondary schools and tertiary children from the north or drought-affected areas in tertiary institutions, so that we can also mitigate resource-based conflict, which is also a major concern in most of our areas, because the few areas which are feeding resources for our livestock are not accessible because of conflict as we speak. Thank you very much. I can see my time is up. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Kimani Kuria, member for Molo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and congratulations to the former leader of majority, the Honorable Duale, for bringing this motion. From the onset, I would like to quote somebody was said by one Doug Ose, that a safe, affordable, and plentiful supply of food is a national security issue. So the issue that is before us, Mr. Speaker, of food security of this country is not just an issue of food. It's not just about eating, but it's a security issue. And you can see a positive correlation between even the controversial voting and the debate we just had about the same area, where when there is drought, we expect most of the time there's going to be lack of peace, and there is going to be even all these interclan wars and all these conflicts. And also, you'll see an insurge of crime, because when people are not full, then they definitely have, it becomes an issue of survival. So those people have to do everything they can to make sure that they get food. Having said, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, it's quite unfortunate that in my constituency, which is Molo, a few months ago, like a month ago, we were giving potatoes and carrots and cabbages to cows and donkeys and sheep and goats because it was not worthy doing this farming. Because a gunia, what called a bag of potatoes, was retailing at around 300 shillings. For you to harvest that bag and sell it at 300 shillings, you would need to pay the person helping you harvest, that laborer, 200 shillings. So technically, you are left with only 100 shillings to recoup your cost for the labor, for the seeds, for the fertilizer, and for having to wait for a season of around 3, 4, 5 months for those potatoes to be ripe. So we're looking at a country, on one side of the country, on one part of the country, we are throwing out food to the animals. On the other side of the country, people are dying of hunger. And whereas we have a government, and we have not even just a government, we have both the county government and the national government. And so I'm wondering what should be the actual solution to this. Mr. Speaker, I've had the privilege of visiting some of these places like North Hall and Marsabit. It was very interesting to see even credit